opposition to win the SA 100-meter title. All the details just before 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 6. Today is Friday, the 25th of April, 2025. Happy Friday to you and welcome to it. Today's edition of The Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Your daily brief is packaged and ready for you as you start your day. We've carefully curated all the consequential news and current affairs developments that we believe you should be aware of. Infused it all with a good dose of analysis and insights, and we look forward to adding your perspectives as well to complete your morning brief. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It is great to be in your company. Here's what's coming up and what's contained in your brief today. Coming up, after the huge collective sigh of relief that we all breathed yesterday, having dodged the VAT increase bullet, now comes a reckoning with the realities of a national budget that remains firmly in limbo. Not only will those components of the budget that allocate spending to government programs as well as share revenue between the different spheres of government need to be redone. They will need to be resubmitted, withdrawn and then redone by the finance minister. His authority, that is the finance minister's authority in terms of the VAT Act to change the VAT rate from time to time, remains under legal attack. So that remains in place. The VAT increase is off the table, but his authority to change the VAT rate from time to time, subject to parliamentary approval, the way that he does it in terms of the VAT Act, that aspect remains firmly under legal attack. So we'll zoom into those aspects. The need to redo all of these elements that constitute the budget, but also the legal attack in terms of the authority of the minister to change the VAT rate from time to time. We'll have Professor Keith Engel, who is CEO of the South African Institute of Taxation, at the top of 7. And immediately after that, we'll talk to Dr. Lumgile Mondi, who is a political economist and senior lecturer of economics and business science at Wits University. So that's coming up at the top of 7. The other story I want to flag for you is this. Amidst the country's seemingly intractable unemployment crisis, companies and recruiters are reporting a surge in job market fraud. So what does this include? It includes phenomena such as the faking of qualifications, identity theft, and financial misrepresentation when people are applying for jobs. But it also coincides, these phenomena, they also coincide with many businesses deciding to cut hiring costs. So the costs they incur in recruiting people into the market, and somewhat skimping in that process on screening of candidates, making for a bad combination that exposes vulnerabilities in the system. At 8:20, we'll have a conversation we were meant to have yesterday with Jennifer Buck-Hazen, who is head of marketing at Managed Integrity Evaluation. And then the last one I want to flag for you very quickly. What's killing cattle in the Eastern Cape? There's an alarming spate of cattle deaths in the province that has prompted urgent warnings from agricultural authorities and raised serious concerns about both livestock safety and public health. So as an example, over 85 cattle were found dead in a single camp near Hope Fountain, which is outside Makhanda. We'll talk to Dr. Lennox Mchachi, who is the national president of the Black Farmers Association, and that conversation is coming up at about 10 to 7 this morning, so look out for that. So the whole team then ready and on standby and at your service once again this morning. And Musa, as you heard, is at the news desk. Rob Byrne with your traffic. Zaikan at the sports desk. Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief. Ndauleng Lechela on your business and the markets. And of course, as always, Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7 or thereabouts. Through it all, I'd like to take your calls. Please give me a call. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, please send those to 061 410 4107. On social media, we are at SAFM Radio on X. We are SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, we are live on our YouTube channel, and that is SAFM Radio. So that's the brief that we propose to present to you this morning. Stick with us. Let's get it started.
The wait is over. I've been hustling, grinding, and now it's time for the glow up you've been waiting for. Unapologetically, made the pay. From the grind to the glam. Anelezondo the glow up on Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
Rise and Shine are not willing to drop their heads as they chase victory to maintain a good top half position. But Matsatsansa Pitori are in a deep hunt for 3 points to escape from danger. Catch the exciting battle of Mzansi's football, Polokwane City FC versus SuperSport United FC on Saturday, 26 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC 1. Then at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
At 14 minutes after 6, let's say good morning to Melissa Puta with your morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. We start in the city of Cape Town. This is a story that one of our callers, one of our listeners highlighted a few days ago. You've got a bit more detail about their proposed property rate hikes and other charges that are set to come into effect a bit later on this year.
Morning, Thulasizwe. So yes, the city of Cape Town is facing backlash over its proposed 7.96% property rate hike and the new fixed infrastructure charges, which are set to begin on July 1st of this year. The opposition parties, including Freedom Front Plus, the Good Party, ACDP, and the ARA are criticizing the increases, and they did this during a council meeting yesterday, citing that this would cause strain to the middle-class residents, pensioners, and vulnerable communities. Some households could see up to a 30% rise due to the higher property values, and this is something that the DA-led city is defending. You know, they're saying that this is necessary for funding the infrastructure and public services, projects in the city. The critiques are accusing the DA, though, of hypocrisy for opposing similar increases in other municipalities. Acting Mayor Eddie Andrews has emphasized that there is a need for strategic, accountable spending to support all residents, and they're standing by their decision despite the backlash that they're receiving for this decision.
Sounds like one that we should get into, that conversation, perhaps in the coming days. An exciting time in athletics, Melissa. Tell me about what's happening in track and field. From time to time, you're seeing these updates, and of course, there's that big name. Bayanda Walaza seems to be the name of the moment, but there are other big names that are at play.
Of course. So yesterday at the opening of the South African Senior Track and Field Championships in Potchefstroom, there was quite a thrilling action despite the tough weather that they faced. 2020 Olympic semi-finalist Gift Liotlela made a stunning return by winning the men's 100-meter sprint in 9.99 seconds, just ahead of the favorite, Bayanda Walaza, who finished at 10 seconds. Both of them have secured their spots in the World Championships in Tokyo. However, Paris 2024 semi-finalist Benjamin Richardson secured third place, in the 10, just finishing like a little over 10 seconds, which was a bit sad, but it was a great day regardless.
Yeah, exciting times in track and field. You can only imagine what a relay team of those names that you just mentioned would look like and the kind of performance they will put in. Then tell me about the Reach for a Dream Foundation. That's something that we're focusing on this Friday.
Yes, so in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll be speaking to Julia, who is the CEO of Reach for a Dream, which is celebrating and reflecting on their decades of work with children, children in a world where they're facing immense challenges like illnesses, adversities, and other circumstances that are beyond their control. For over 35 years, Reach for a Dream Foundation says that they've stood behind children with life-threatening illnesses, nurturing their emotional well-being and helping them believe in a brighter tomorrow. So she'll be unpacking more, on the work that they've done over the decades. And that should be an interesting one, too.
Absolutely. We look forward to that conversation and uplifting, always inspirational and uplifting conversation. Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta there with your morning brief in brief.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let me give you a sense of what your weather is looking like this morning. In fact, I'll come back to it in just a moment.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
After a 0-all draw in Mzansi, the Pyramids are confident they will complete their agenda with victory on home soil. But Rivero's boys believe they will end their long-distance trip to Egypt with an impressive performance. This is the second leg semi-final clash of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the thrilling encounter of African football. Pyramids FC versus Orlando Pirates this Friday, 25 April at 7:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 2 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's get to your weather then on this Friday. There's only one impact-based warning coming through from the South African Weather Service. It is a yellow level 4 warning. It says disruptive rain leading to localized flooding of settlements, both formal and informal, roads and low-lying bridges. Those conditions are expected along the coast of KwaZulu-Natal. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will see morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 21. Johannesburg, same conditions. Morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy, 8 to 20. Mbombela, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 14 to 21. Bulukwane will be cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 14 to 21. Mahikeng will be fine, 8 to 22. Bloemfontein will be fine, 9 to 19. Kimberley, fine, 10 to 21. Uppington, fine, 11 to 24. Cape Town will have morning fog patches. Otherwise, it will be fine with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 26. George will be cloudy in the morning with fog patches. Otherwise, it will be fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 21. Gqeberha, cloudy, becoming fine in the afternoon, 14 to 24. East London will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 16 to 23. Durban will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 21. Richards Bay will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 18 to 23. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog. Otherwise, it will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 12 to 20.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
22 minutes after 6. Let's turn our attention to this story now. Fresh tensions have risen between India and Pakistan following a deadly attack in the disputed Himalayan region of Jammu and Kashmir, which killed 26 tourists. 25 of the 26 people massacred in Tuesday's attack were Indian citizens, triggering fresh unrest in the region at the heart of the long-running and often violent territorial conflict between the two nations. On Wednesday, India accused Pakistan of backing terrorist groups in the region after a little-known militant organization called the Resistance Front claimed responsibility. And of course, Pakistan is denying that allegation. Let's speak now to Thembisa Fagude, who is Director of Africa-Asia Dialogues and also a global governance analyst. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time as always, Thembisa. So, we haven't spoken about Jammu and Kashmir in a while. It seemed that these attacks were not happening as much as they used to happen. Place it in historical context. Why is this region volatile and contested and prone to these kinds of attacks from time to time?
Well, it's a disputed region, for lack of a better explanation or term. So when the petition happened in 1947, separating Pakistan and India, Jammu Kashmir remained semi-independent, but even though it was part of India and controlled and administered by India, the majority of the Kashmiris, 77% or so of them, were Muslims. And when India were petitioned based on religion and carelessness by the British, as they did everywhere else in the world, they wanted to be part of Pakistan. But that particular part was left to be administered by India. And that's why we find ourselves in this situation at the moment. But this has been the practice of the British. If you look at how they withdrew from various parts of the world, they always leave a small piece of land that keeps the people of that region busy. And this is what happened in Kashmir. We have the Hindus, or India, which is largely Hindu, and Pakistan, which is largely Muslims, fighting for this piece of land and control for a long time, and it's keeping them busy from doing other things that would bring political stability in the region.
And to what extent then does that historical context and background in those tensions provide, good breeding ground for groups to come up from time to time and engage in these kinds of attacks? This one, for instance, is known as the Resistance Front, and it wasn't known, not much was known about them, but they've claimed responsibility for this latest attack.
Well, it's likely to bring some kind of tension in the region, but for me, this seems to be coming direct from the playbook of Israel, if you really think about it. You've got this small group of people who went on a shooting spree on tourists in Kashmir. And now you've got India that's coming out guns blazing and promising to basically go through the end of the earth to find these people, but at the same time suspending diplomatic relations and suspending the treaties that have had, particularly with sharing waters on the Indus River. So this is likely to create a lot of problems, and hopefully cool minds are going to prevail in this regard, because if a war ensues between India and Pakistan, two nuclear powerhouse countries, we are likely to have this spreading to other parts of the region, unfortunately.
And complicating matters further, I would imagine, Thembisa, is despite the tensions and historical disputes over this region, the two nations do have a level of cooperation, right? There's this key water sharing treaty that exists. Now that is being affected in a way, as well as the shutting down of the border between the two countries.
Indeed, an expelling of the military diplomats from India and Pakistan has also retaliated. But again, this speaks to this haphazard way of how disputes are settled. So it was a religious compromise, and I've argued in the past that, South Africa, India, Pakistan, and Israel were these theocracies that were compromised. So you have a South African Christian Afrikaner-led grouping that was given South Africa. You've got the Jews, and you had Muslims and the Hindus in India. And the hope, of course, by the British colonizers was that was going to bring political stability around the world. And alas, we're in a situation right now where we find ourselves these continual bloody wars that are taking place. And we forget who actually started these kind of complications. It was the British who started these kind of complications, particularly in that part of the world. If they did not, I will argue, petition India and left the people to live by themselves, perhaps would have been having a much more peaceful region, particularly in that part of the world.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. Always fascinating hearing from you. That's Thembisa Fagute, who is the Director at Africa-Asia Dialogues and Global Governance Analyst. The history that he refers to, do yourself a favor, find out a bit more about the partition as it happened from one nation creating two nations, India and Pakistan. It's, for lack of a better word, a fascinating bit of history, but also quite a painful bit of history. It will just be illuminating. Just find out there are lots of podcasts that address that particular situation.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. So, Amapagapaga are looking for glory in the CAF Champions League, right?
We have been building up to this the whole week and it's finally arrived. So Cairo might just be painted black and white. Tonight is where the stage is going to be set for the second leg CAF Champions League semi-final clash. It's between Pyramids FC and Orlando Pirates after a 0-0 draw at FNB Stadium where VAR stole the spotlight by chalking off 2 Egyptian goals. The Buccaneers know the margin for error is thin. Coach Jose Rivero's men, unbeaten in this campaign, will have all their eyes to defy the odds and punch their ticket to the final for the first time since 1995. Earlier tonight, we'll see Mamelodi Sundowns take on the Egyptian giants Al Ahly in their decisive Champions League semi-final second leg. Also in Cairo, 6 p.m. is that kickoff, a game that potentially could have dire consequences for coach Miguel Cardoso. In recent weeks, Sundowns have lacked consistency, suffering defeats to Big Three rivals Orlando Pirates in the Betway Premiership, battling Kaizer Chiefs in a Nedbank Cup semi-final, and this has led to the suggestions that the Brazilians may be vulnerable at a critical stage of the campaign. Now, in the 0-0 draw with Al Ahly in the first leg at Loftus, it means that they did not concede at home, and scoring a draw will be enough for Sundowns to progress. More soccer, Amajita's number one goalkeeper, Fletcher Lowe-Smith, believes that they're going to do well in the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations. Lowe-Smith, who's based in Portugal and plays for Estoril Praia, says he knows the team as they take on the host Egypt on Sunday, 9 p.m.
Well, the unity in this team is incredible. I always come here and enjoy myself. Most importantly, I feel like I have something to offer for the team. We all have something to offer for the team, and we have come here now to have a common goal and make history for the country. And hopefully we can make them proud.
Yes. And also tell us more about yourself. How did you end up in Portugal?
So during the 2020 pandemic, my family and I decided that we should go and experiment out in Portugal, just because we wanted to try something different. So we liked it and then ended up settling there.
And finally, the 2020 Olympic semi-finalist Gift Leotlela, narrowly edging out his training mate Bayanda Walaza in the South African National Championships 100-meter final to be crowned South Africa's new sprint king. He just pipped Walaza. His time was 9.99 seconds to Walaza's 10 seconds. Let's hear from the race winner, Gift Leotlela.
I knew what I did in that semi-final. I just had to do the same thing in the final, focus on myself and my execution and not worry about anything else. I tried not to panic, but I think that was the race for me. Just not to panic because I didn't have a great start. I was coming from behind and it's Bayanda and Benjamin, they're quick. So yeah, I just had to stay composed. I've never had a South African senior title. This is my first one.
And with a name like Gift, we'll bring you more. That's on the Morning Brief at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headline: Social Security Agency SASSA has cited preventing fraud related to identity misrepresentation as its reason for introducing a biometric process. Questions are being raised on the legal clarity of the process of reversing of an increase in value-added tax, but Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has indicated the rates and monetary amounts and the amendment of Revenue Laws Bill will first be introduced without the VAT hike. And Eskom has attributed its decision to suspend rolling blackouts to the recovery of more than 2,000 megawatts of generation capacity and sufficient emergency reserves. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Full focus on KZN, Durban, the rain moving in again. It came down heavy this morning, moved away, but it's come back in and it's come quite heavy at this stage. The heavy rain between sort of the airport, King Shaka, right down to sort of the Malvern area. So there's some very slow traffic along the N2 corridor, both directions. Obviously M19, the N3 between Durban and Spaghetti Junction, the M7 between Pinetown and the N2 through Queensborough and Malvern. It's all very slow going on account of that. Some big traffic as well coming out of Komashu on the Komashu Highway down towards the N2. Big traffic on the Higginson Highway coming through from Chatsworth. Everything on a go slow this morning. And on top of that, rain. There's a lot of pockets of surface water, standing water and flooding across the greater Durban region. South Coast got really badly hit as well. There are multiple routes that are underwater flooded between Port Edward and Amanzimtoti. So please, extra care and caution required today. Heavy mist around Gauteng. The busy highway routes, the N1, the R21 towards the airport and the N12 around David and Benoni, shrouded in quite thick mist. A crash on the N12 inbound at Galuli's interchange causing some delays as well. And if you're driving Cape Town, both the parallel routes, the M7 and Delta Fred and Road as you leave Mitchell's Plain, jam-packed as you head up towards the Philippi area this morning, and the N1 inbound from N1 City slow going through to Sable Road. Noticeably easier, less volumes this morning around Cape Town's highways. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndawleng Lechela for the first update of the morning. Ndawleng, believe it or not, I can't place Alphabet within these tech giants. There's so much going on. You have ByteDance, you have Meta. It keeps moving. I can't remember which one is Alphabet. And tell me about their, them topping market expectations.
Morning to us. An Alphabet a business is a business where you use most of their products. Alphabet is actually Google's parent company.
Yes,
they also
now.
own YouTube as well. So
yes,
one of those that we know, but I guess the main name also confuses us a bit. So they've reported stronger than expected first quarter growth, with revenue rising 12% to $90.2 billion. Earnings per share also surpassed expectations, reaching $2.81 compared to the estimated $2. The group posted growth across most of its businesses. Advertising revenue grew 8.5% due to strong growth in Google search and advertising units. The company's search and other segments reported $50.7 billion in revenue, up 9.8% from the previous year. But YouTube advertising revenue came in at $8.93 billion, slightly below analyst expectations. Meanwhile, Alphabet's cloud computing business delivered a 28% jump in revenue and margins improved. The company also announced its largest acquisition ever, agreeing to buy Wiz for $32 billion to boost its cloud division security offerings during the period as well. Looking at the overall performance, net income increased by 46%, and this, of course, driven by strong revenue growth across its units and unrealized gains on its investments.
And here's a company that I cannot forget, Intel. Tell me about what they expect in terms of the outlook for 2025. They are worried a bit about this global uncertainty.
That's right, Sulas. And do you remember it? Because it's a Mhlobomdala tech company.
Mhlobomdala, what are you saying about me? No, it's for the chip market competition that you and I talk about from time to time. Yeah.
I see. So from one tech company that's doing really well to one that's really struggling, Intel's forecast for the second quarter fell short of estimates, and this costing
a shadow of doubt over new CEO Lip Bhutan's first earnings call. The company's revenue guidance of $11.2 billion to $12.4 billion for the June quarter was below analysts' average estimates of about $12.82 billion. The company pointed to uncertainty, of course, around tariffs as a major factor in its forecast, with customers stockpiling Intel chips in the first quarter, which is expected to lead to a decline in sales in the second quarter. The company is also undergoing restructuring efforts aiming to streamline its operations and cut costs. As part of these efforts, Intel reduced its expense target to $17 billion in 2025 and $16 billion in 2026. Now, in an attempt to reduce that expense line, job cuts are also on the table, expected to begin in the second quarter with the goal of reducing internal bureaucracy. Now, TAN's restructuring plans aim to boost the company, which has gained a hold in the booming AI market. We've also seen partnerships coming through with TSMC to also boost the group within that chip making market.
All right, lastly, Ntaoling, please give us a sense of where the markets stand at this hour.
While we saw a pause in markets while we saw a pause in some other markets, U.S. stocks continue to run following upbeat numbers from tech giant Alphabet, and that boosting the tech-heavy Nasdaq, which gained 2.7% overnight. That upbeat momentum also being seen on the local front, with the JSE closing yesterday's session in the green, the all-share up 0.79%. We saw a lot of strength coming through from consumer-faced companies like retailers and banks after Treasury scrapped the VAT hike. The rand not necessarily benefiting from the tax hike U-turn, with analysts saying the way it was done has fueled political uncertainty. With that, the local unit is trading at 18.84 to the dollar from about the 1860 level yesterday morning. Then over in Asia, trade in positive territory as traders remain optimistic about a favorable outcome from the ongoing tariff negotiations between the U.S. and several partner countries. That includes Japan, South Korea, and India.
All right, thank you for that. We'll talk to you in the second hour. That's Ntaoling Lechela. She'll be back just after 7:30 with your second update of the morning.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning to you. We don't really like to hear this, do we? Any tensions or disagreements on issues of trade among African countries, and in particular, South Africa, Tanzania, and Malawi. What's happening there?
Refreshing morning, Tulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Tulas, when we have to talk about the SADC region, this concept of regional integration, trade becomes the pillar. Now, in trade, you have to have what you call mutual respect, which is non-negotiable. Here, Tanzania, Tulas, I've said it on Monday during holiday, that Tanzania, with immediate effect, has banned all agricultural produce from South Africa and Malawi. And here we're talking about your apples that come from South Africa, your grapes, and other agricultural produce that come from Malawi. South Africa, Malawi, last week, Tulas, they banned agricultural products from Tanzania, which include your rice, flour, ginger, bananas, and maize. So that is the context of the issue that has caused what I call obstruction of the flow of goods and affected the local traders within the SADC region. Now, the Minister of Trade in Tanzania, Bashe, was very clear to us to say that there is no threat to national food security, and there's also a threat to Malawi. If you look, there are no fertilizers that will leave Tanzania to Malawi to us. And this is very sad when you look at the trade war within the SADC region.
Yeah, hopefully that can be sorted out quite soon, Sipho. Tell me what's happening ahead of the elections that are coming up a bit later on in the year in Cote d'Ivoire. There's this judgment that has come through regarding the eligibility of the main opposition contender.
Tijan Tulas, as others they call him Titi, the court ruled this week that he's not eligible to run for the October presidential elections due to the issue that he lost his Ivorian nationality. he had a French nationality. Now, when you look at this, having been struck off the electoral list, that has caused tension within his members, that even the lawyers say that, Thulas, in a legal language, we respect the judge's outcome, but we don't share it. So that's very clear. But when you look at Tian Chiti, he's raising the issue that I will take the matter to the ECOWAS courts now, because what you have done that is that you cannot appeal this outcome to us. They have to publish the electoral list on the 20th of June. Elections are scheduled in October. So they have to run against the time, Electoral Commission, but opposition, they are not happy with this outcome.
And then staying in West Africa, tell me the decisions that President Bola Tinubu is making in Nigeria regarding security. He's concerned about, 4 states or thereabouts?
Correctly, Thulas. You know, Bola Tinubu, the Jagaban, is worried about Kwara State, Plateau, Benue, and Bono. And he had a meeting with his security chiefs yesterday at the State House in Abuja for more than 2 hours, where he had to outline that the senseless targeting of innocent people should end, Thulas. And this was also acknowledged by the security personnel and chiefs, that they do acknowledge that they've briefed him, but they have to strengthen the issue of dealing with this high level of insecurity in those 4 provinces or 4 states that I have mentioned. It means Bola Tinubu is serious on dealing with the question of insecurity in that country.
And returning to Southern Africa, let's focus on Zimbabwe for a bit. Some activism and sort of grievances being aired by some of the country's academics and lecturers. Tell me what's happening at the University of Zimbabwe.
Thulas, we have what you call, others they say, the legal precedent extends beyond academia. Now here you have a High Court justice who favors Association of University Teachers as they were affirming their right to strike. Zimbabwean lecturers are earning less to us. We are talking of in our currency in South Africa, 4,181. But you look at USD, it's just 230. Now they are asking for fair remuneration. And that's how they were confirmed by the court that they can enter on strike. Remember when the first day of the strike started, others were arrested. Now this judgment has confirmed that the lecturers, they can protest to us so long as they've got marshals, so long as they've got designated protest zones. And that shows that Zimbabwe is moving towards human rights to us. Probably is this blessed bombshell Gaza who has been causing tension in the State House of Dambuzo, Mnangagwa.
And lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, it has to do with another great daughter of the African continent. Tell me what happened on the 26th of April, 1960?
Thulas, a singer, an actress, a guitarist, composer, a recording artist, and author, a teacher, musical storyteller was born in the family of musicians. You can call them the Jackson 5 of South Africa, but this were the Nokwe 6 of South Africa. We are talking about Umama Nombeko Miranda Nokwe. You know him as Tu Nokwe Thulas, but the name Tu Nokwe is from Thulam Tanami. It is a harsh little baby, a sense when I was asking her. She's currently in Tanzania, Bagamoyo, where she's celebrating her 65 years tomorrow. Now, she was introduced to music by her mother in terms of the music of Miriam Makeba, Leta Mbulu, been given honorary doctorate on community development in South Africa, over 50 years to us in the industry. So you can understand we are not talking about an ordinary person, a person who has also left this country, filming of Shaka Zulu, acting as Shaka's wife, very important. But also, like I said, yesterday we had a privilege to have her during the 3rd annual memorial lecture of Dr. Zenzile Miriam Makeba Thulas. She spoke eloquently about Dr. Miriam Zenzile Makeba. Maralo was the lecturer to us. I hope the SABC was not running after Zelensky, because Zelensky was a one-night stand off going to the Kiwi. But we lost the archive of what I call the national history and heritage of our country to us. People like Sipho Wakamabuze was there, Bohelda, Tobata, Wamashatini. To us, I can mention it is endless, but the tributes that were paid to Dr. Zenzile Miriam Makeba and thinking of Umam Tunokwe, it connects the history of our heritage and the freedom. As we're entering the Freedom Weekend, to us, very important to say these are our musicians, our intellectuals, they are our freedom fighters. Asante sana to us as we're still leading the conversation on this misty morning around Gauteng province.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Sipho. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update here on the Morning Brief.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Hashtag your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
We all have dreams. Some people dream to be astronauts, while others want to yell, Vimba, as they chase that elusive shoplifter sprinting out and into Diamond Walk. Others might look at a broomstick and think to themselves that witchcraft might be the way to go. The possibilities are endless. But for Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, their dreams is to make it big in the English football leagues. Tune into Welcome to Wrexham as the duo aim to turn Wrexham AFC into an underdog story that the world can root for, bringing hope and change to the community. Welcome to Wrexham, Saturdays at 3 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The Red Devils want to add more heat in Cairo to make life difficult for Masandawana, but Kabuyelo refused to shake and break. They are on a mission to elevate their game and march to the final with big smiles. It is do or die. This is the second leg semi-final encounter of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Catch the incredible action of African football. Al Ahly FC versus Mamelodi Sundowns FC. This Friday, 25 April at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
At Dubai Tradeport, we specialize in helping businesses grow through state-of-the-art manufacturing, infrastructure, logistics services, and international trade links. We're an advanced environment for doing business where most ambitious companies gather. If you're seeking progressive opportunities and looking to build mutually beneficial relationships, move to dubaiTradeport.co.za to see your business grow beyond potential.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a quick update if you're driving between Harrismith and Van Rienen's Pass. There's been a big multi-truck crash. Traffic is being stacked both directions. So between Swinburne and Van Rienen Village, that's where the scene is. And there's some very heavy backlogging with big volumes on that section of the N3. If you don't fancy it, you've got Olivier's Hook Pass as the alternative, which is in a lot better condition than it has been in recent years. You can just keep yourself moving using that 74. Bergville Harrismith is the option there. Otherwise, aim to set off later once that scene has been cleared and the road effectively reopened. Durban, the rain, very interesting. Heavy early hours this morning, went away and it's come back. It is absolutely bucketing down on our WhatsApp line. Just getting a message saying, Rob, it's bucketing down in Durban, so much so that I've pulled off and parked at a safe place. Many drivers pulling off. Visibility is down to zero. The real sort of heavy rain at this stage seems to be between sort of Umlazi and the airport, if you like. So that N2 corridor under pressure. Also a crash in the middle of it on the N2 north up by Queen Nandi Drive. So very heavy this morning. Big backlogs from the M7 making your way through Spaghetti Junction and Mgina Road and up to Queen Nandi. There's also just a lot of flooding and surface water dangers all around Durban. So if you're travelling, if it's absolutely essential to get out this morning for work or other purposes, please drive absolutely carefully. If it's not essential, travel a little bit later. Joburg, crash involving a taxi overturning Mike 1 coming up through Uncle Charlie's towards Ormonde. Crash on the N12 and R24 routes after they've merged going into Galuli's interchange, and a pretty misty start this Friday around many of the major routes across Gauteng, so drive carefully if it's misty where you are, please. Cape Town, volumes on the highways not so significant. It is an easier Friday, although it's still busy. The real pressure point seems to be again coming out of Mitchell's Plain, both the M7 and Velta Vreden Road, both of those routes running power and are heavy as you backlog out of Mitchell's Plain up to Samora, Michelle and Philippi side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
El Clasico is here. Barcelona takes on Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final.
And you can catch every moment on S3 or stream live on SABC Plus. Watch two of the world's biggest teams fight for Spanish football's ultimate trophy. Don't miss out on the heart-pounding action. Head to sabcplus.com to register right now. Or tune into S3 on Saturday, 26 April at 9:30 p.m. for the live broadcast. This is the Copa del Rey final. Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport, your home of great football. For the love of the game.
Hey gorgeous, want to keep your glam game strong and your bank account happy? It's time for big beauty savings at Dis-Chem. We're talking next level flawless skin with a whopping 30% off Eucerin, Neutroderma, Dermatin and Bioderma, and 20% off the hottest beauty brands like L'Oreal, Revlon, Yardley, Maybelline, LA Girl, Palladio, all in one place. Shop big beauty savings at Dis-Chem and slay while you save. Hurry, deals end 11 May.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
It's coming up to 7 minutes to 7. Eskom's rolling power outages, known as load shedding, made a brief reappearance yesterday into this morning, with the power utility attributing them to rising demand, unplanned generation losses and scheduled maintenance. Eskom implemented stage 2 load shedding from 4 p.m. yesterday until midnight. Let's speak to Chris Yelland, energy expert, who joins me now for that conversation. Chris, good morning and thank you for your time. So how do we understand the reasons behind the load shedding that we experienced yesterday? There's certainly a sense that the system isn't as stable as it was, about a year ago when we went for almost 10 to 11 months without having to resort to load shedding.
Yeah, it's right. It came as something of a surprise to us all, certainly to me yesterday, to suddenly experience this very short bout of load shedding between 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon and midnight. So I think everybody is relieved that it's passed, but I think it is a signal that things are not where they should be. There is still some work to be done. The job is not over. But I think if you look at the data carefully, and the Minister has pointed this out, that right now, at this time of year, Eskom is doing considerably more planned maintenance outages than they were at the same time last year. The Minister has said that this is a conscious strategy to do more maintenance, to take more units out in order to do more maintenance, knowing that it puts the system sometimes under pressure. But that it is necessary to do this before the winter really sets in. And that puts a bit more pressure on the system because more units are out of service.
Yeah.
So that's really the explanation that I see if I look at the data.
So with that said, what kind of prognosis can we possibly make? There's that element you mentioned of more planned maintenance, sometimes leaving a small buffer such that if one generation unit trips, we are in trouble. But I mean, it's all meant, as you say, to invest into the coming winter demand. What kind of prognosis are we looking at?
Well, let's say that the prognosis going forward into winter, I don't think it is all that bad because there are some additional generator units that are going to be coming back into service in the next month or two. In particular, Medupi unit number 4. You may remember that was the unit that was taken out as a result of a hydrogen explosion. And it's been out of service something like more than 3 years, actually. But it is scheduled to come back into service the end of April and the first part of May. So we're kind of nearly there. But we're all holding our breath to see whether Eskom is going to stick to that schedule. I must caution that when a unit, a generation unit, which comprises a whole lot of plant, conveyors and boilers and mills and all kinds of equipment, when that has been out of service for 3 years plus, it's not just a matter of switching it on and everything is happy. It might take a little while to sort out problems that have developed over that time. But in addition to that, Kusile Unit number 1 has been out of service and is due to come back into service at the end of June this year.
All right.
So those are 2 units which are going to add quite significant new generation capacity, which is going to help things.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Chris Yelland, an energy expert.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Let's turn to this now. An alarming spate of cattle deaths in the Eastern Cape has prompted urgent warnings from agriculture authorities and raised serious concerns about both livestock safety and public health. Over 85 cattle were found dead in a single camp near Hope Fountain outside Makanda, while toxic grass resulting from armyworm activity is suspected. The exact cause remains unconfirmed pending veterinary analysis. Let's speak to Dr. Lennox Mtsachi, who is the National President of the Black Farmers Association of South Africa. Good morning to you and thank you for your time this morning. What's killing cattle in the Eastern Cape?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I think, first of all, we as BFASA, we want to express our sincere condolences to the affected farmers and communities. Number one, I think the government has got a duty to work with the farmers. Our farmers don't have a lot of experience or finances to get to seek help to veterinaries, to the veterinaries, and also get check the water and all that. You know, farmers are looking for grazing spaces, and they will find these grazing spaces. Maybe someone was using it for a different purpose, you know, and all those things. But the armyworm is a problem that has been there for ages. And I feel for those farmers because I just received a letter from the Minister of Agriculture's office, very strange, asking for sponsors for a budget, a budget meeting that will be held on the 13th of May, and it also says if you sponsor, you will be given a platform. You know,
this is from Minister John Steenhuisen. This is from Minister John Steenhuisen's office.
Yes. Yeah. What kind of a nonsense is that? That means the poor will not have a platform. How are we going to sponsor a budget in order for you to voice out your views or whatsoever? You will be given a platform if you sponsor for the catering and that.
So is it your sense that then that the minister and government's priorities, they have their priorities all wrong? You are dealing with these issues that we are talking about, such as the armyworm, grazing space and the likes, when they are having a different conversation from yours?
Yes, and also you can see also on the news, the minister is busy with the vet and that. There's nothing is happening on the ground. And I've never had a meeting with the minister ever since he was appointed or invited to a meeting.
Right.
It was the first time to get this letter that we must, he's seeking for sponsorship for this budget.
All right. Dr. Mtsachi, because of time, I've got to leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Dr. Lennox Mtsachi, who is the National President of the Black Farmers Association, clearly raising some issues that are worthy of taking forward with the Minister of Agriculture in light of what we are seeing in the Eastern Cape regarding cattle deaths. Let's turn now to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, SASSA introduces biometrics for all grant beneficiaries, and Trump signs executive order boosting deep-sea mining. Good morning. Social Security Agency SASSA has cited preventing fraud related to identity misrepresentation as its reason for introducing a biometric process. It says the mandatory biometric enrollment and identity verification process will be introduced on the 5th of next month. SASSA spokesperson Paseka Litsatsi.
This initiative aims to enhance the security and accuracy of client identification within the agency system. Beginning on the 5th of May 2025, all new clients who use alternative forms of identification other than the standard 13-digit South African ID number, as well as existing clients undergoing reviews or changes to their personal information, will be required to undergo compulsory biometric enrollment. This measure is part of SASSA's ongoing effort to improve the integrity and efficiency of its system and how it services clients.
Questions are being raised on the legal clarity of the process of reversing of an increase in value-added tax. But Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has indicated the rates and monetary amounts and the amendment of Revenue Laws Bill will first be introduced without the VAT hike. The appropriation and the division of revenue bills will then be withdrawn to propose expenditure adjustments that will cover the resultant shortfall in revenue. VAT will remain at 15%. Meanwhile, the Cape Chamber of Commerce says government will have to curb its expenditure to make up for the deficit in the medium term. Its suggestions include reducing the size of the cabinet and cutting spending on public service salaries. The Chamber's Deputy President, Darren Brigg, says the VAT hike reversal is a positive step for already overburdened consumers.
The VAT hike would have had a massive impact on households, which are really under pressure. And obviously, as input VAT increases, prices increase, it has a negative impact on spending, and consumer household expenditure drops. So it literally means that families can't afford food and essential items, and that pushes more people into poverty. It creates more malnutrition.
ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula has conceded the SACP's decision to contest elections separate from the tripartite alliance will have a negative impact on the ANC. He says the ANC is continuing to engage the SACP with the hope that the two parties will reach common ground. Mbalula addressed delegates of the Northern Cape ANC Elective Conference in Kimberley.
We are processing that discussion, including its implications to us. As the movement, it's important that we must engage with that. And we're engaging with it. And what we have said and what we have seen is that if the Communist Party stands on its own, it will definitely have an impact on the alliance. So that is why we are not in this emotional roller coaster. So, because this will not be rewarding to us.
Eskom has attributed its decision to suspend rolling blackouts to the recovery of more than 2,000 megawatts of generation capacity and sufficient emergency reserves. It also says there is an expected decline in electricity demand. Eskom implemented Stage 2 rolling blackouts yesterday due to high demand and loss of generating units. The power utility spokesperson, Daphne Mukwena.
Load shedding was suspended at midnight. Planned maintenance continues to ensure system readiness for increased winter demand, to meet regulatory requirements, and to ensure environmental compliance. Our team remains committed to restoring approximately 6,000 megawatts to service by next Tuesday.
And finally, US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order aimed at accelerating deep-sea mining. It's for critical minerals needed to make batteries, computer chips and some weapons. It's hoped that the measure will reduce reliance on China, but critics say it will harm underwater ecosystems. The BBC's Jay Kwon reports.
The White House has promised that the order will create 100,000 jobs and hundreds of billions of dollars in economic growth. But China was clearly on the mind as Mr. Trump signed the papers. It is estimated that the U.S. seafloor has 1 billion metric tons of potato-sized nodules containing nickel, manganese, and cobalt. They are critical in making electric car batteries and computer chips, and the world relies on China for them. The UN has been preventing such mining for more than a decade, citing environmental concerns, but Mr. Trump's order will bypass the UN rules.
Recapping the top stories, Social Security Agency SASSA has cited preventing fraud related to identity misrepresentation as its reason for introducing a biometric process. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
You wouldn't want to pay more than you need to for electricity, so why overpay for car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Zandile, a 36-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who saves a mind-blowing 918 Rand a month on her 2024 Cherry Tiggo 1.5 litre. Isn't it time you got the real deal? Don't pay more. Switch and save today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A lot of mist lingering around Gauteng this morning. Please drive very carefully if it's misty where you are. There's also this crash coming into Galulis on the N12 and R24 routes in from Ekurhuleni. Both routes are badly backed up. Durban, the rain is absolutely bucketing down. It is torrential. Everything on a go slow on account of the weather conditions this morning. We're looking at some flooding on the M19 underneath the N2. There's at least a taxi that is stuck just sort of floating away in that floodwater. That is bad between Springfield and Reservoir Hills. Puddling, surface water, widespread flooding. It's absolutely everywhere this morning. Travel only if absolutely essential and give yourself plenty of time to get through it. Otherwise, just sit put until conditions improve. There's also a crash on the N2 north of Queen Nandi. That's very heavy coming up from the M7. There's a collision on the M4 near Riverside leaving Durban, so that's quite badly backed up. Crash on the M41 at the N2 highway coming down from Mount Edgecombe. It's just a real mess this morning across the Durban region. Also, a big truck crash in between Van Rynen's Pass and Swinburne. It's on the Free State side of Van Rynen Village, so there's big backlogs there today. And Cape Town, as we were mentioning, a little bit easier in the traffic, noticeably on the N1 inbound. That's not a bad run this morning. The Marine Drive stays busy, though, Bayside through to Sunset Beach. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action with South African football eyeing an all-Mzansi CAF Champions League final. And we also got the first day of the South African Senior Track and Field Championships kicking off with a bang. Details just before 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 7 on this Friday. Good morning and thank you for joining us. We are into the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. So tax matters under focus, revenue generation, the money we need to fund our development and programs of government. That is what we are focusing on, but also the processes that govern how that money is raised as well as how it is allocated and spent. So you and I, in a way, in a manner of speaking, we dodged a bullet in as far as the 0.5 percentage point increase in value-added tax is concerned. That is now off the table, but there's a clear sense that we remain in limbo in as far as the national budget is concerned. The national budget, as you'll know, is made up of various pieces of legislation and components. All of that now is pretty much up in the air because the minister has said the decision around VAT does mean that the division of revenue bill, for example, and the appropriations will now need to be withdrawn and then redone. So we'll focus on that and focus also on the authority and power of the minister to change the VAT rate. That's that debate that has to do with the powers that he's been granted by the VAT Act. That is now under legal challenge by the Democratic Alliance. And despite the decision to remove the VAT increase, that challenge will remain on the books in as far as the courts are concerned. So over the next few minutes, I'll be in conversation with Professor Keith Engel, who is CEO of the South African Institute of Taxation. And immediately after that, I'll talk to Dr. Lumkile Mondi, who is a political economist, as well as a senior lecturer of economics and business science at Wits University. So those are the two main conversations that we'll bring under the spotlight in this half hour. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have you weigh in on these matters. The numbers to dial, as always, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, please send them to 061 410 4107. This is the second hour of the morning brief on SAFM.
Switch to stream with SABC Plus. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime. Zero subscription fees. Download SABC Plus on Android or iOS and watch the Betway Premier Soccer League, the English Premier League, and the Bundesliga live. You can also catch up with Uzalo, Skim Sam, Generations on demand and listen to your favorite radio stations live. Ukhozi, Umhlobo Wenene, Radio 2000 and 5FM, all for free. Switch to stream with SABC Plus now. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime with SABC Plus.
Your Sunday nights are about to get big on S3. We have some of the biggest movie titles that will take you on adventures that you simply cannot miss. Thomas arrives in a glade at the center of a giant maze. The race to escape the maze leads him to a journey. Should they escape, all questions will be answered. Tune into The Maze Runner, Sunday, the 27th of April. Maze Runner Darth Cure on the 4th of May. Maze Runner The Scorched Trials on the 11th of May. S3 Blockbuster Movies, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The Seagulls believe their fighting spirit will match their style of football as they chase valuable points.
Pedro in front of the Leicester fans against Hermanson and he rolls it home. João Pedro gives Albion the lead.
While the Hammers have a big task to prevail away from home.
Clips it in there and Bowen! And West Ham United have turned this game around.
This is the Premier League. Catch the nail-biting action. Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United FC on Saturday, 26 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
15 minutes after 7. So the country may have dodged the VAT increase bullet, but it seems the controversy around the legal provisions that made it possible in the first place, that controversy is far from over. Speaking on this show yesterday, the DA's national spokesperson, Karabo Khachau, confirming that the party still intends to have the constitutionality of Section 7, subsection 4 of the VAT Act determined by the courts. The provision vests in the Minister of Finance the power to change the VAT rate, subject to Parliament passing legislation within 12 months of the Minister's announcement to give effect to that rate change. Let's start with this conversation with Dr. Lumkile Mondi, who is a political economist and senior lecturer of economics and business science at Wits University. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So just tell me about where this leaves us. almost everyone heaving a sigh of relief that the 0.5 percentage point increase in VAT is off the table now. But we are not in the clear in as far as the budget process is concerned, are we?
Not at all. I think what you're going to be seeing is a flurry of amendments that will come into Parliament, which is going to take a long time. I think the easiest thing to do was to finish the legal process and then get a ruling that will make the process quicker. But in the absence of that, I think the Minister of Finance and the team at Treasury has got its work cut out to try and present these various amendments and papers that will ensure that we can at least by end of May finalize the budgetary process and government to spend, because we need it for economic growth.
This is unprecedented, Dr. Mondi, isn't it? By now, by this time, and by May, usually we have all of these various pieces of legislation done and dusted, and everyone is clear how much money is available to spend on what.
Fortunately, that's the strength of a democratic regime that we sign up to, where constitutional democracy with a proportional representation. Therefore, in times like this, when we don't have a majority, 50-plus winner, we're going to have a coalition government. And in their nature, they're completely unstable politically, but the budgetary process is the first test for us. That a coalition, in fact, years to come, we may not have a government for a year because we cannot form one government. So I think South Africans must read themselves that we're in this process for a long haul, because that's the nature of what democracy. And I think the drafters of our constitution wanted that to happen so that there can be accountability and there can be transparency, which is fantastic. Of course, it does delay governance, as we have seen in the budget. And therefore, this is not surprising why we have got this problem around the budget today. It's the nature of our constitution and nature of democracy. And we should be happy that we're able to have this process that's transparent, that forces politicians accountable and cut deals in the interest of the country, not of a political party.
Sure. So happy that we're having this festival of ideas and everything being scrutinized, and that level of participation in the debates around our national budget. But I wonder what the impact is of this uncertainty. The leader of Rise Mzansi, Songezo Zibi, yesterday making the point to highlight the impact on the bonds markets, as well as our costs of servicing debt, that this is related to this prolonged uncertainty.
Unfortunately, the market also have to understand, because they've seen it in Germany, in Spain, in Italy, that, that's what happens with coalition. There's uncertainty, but eventually when people get together, discuss, as we have seen with the parties in the opposition and the ANC trying to really make it happen, that's what's going to happen. So I think the markets are learning. We're all learning. But we should be, as I said to you, we should be very, very happy that, we are building a vibrant and democratic country with accountability, and making sure that, politicians know that they're not there for themselves, they're there for the country, and therefore they need to work together to ensure that we come to conclusion much faster, because we need growth, given that unemployment in South Africa is the biggest obstacle, and investment in infrastructure is an urgent thing to be done in the absence of an approved budget.
And what have you made of the debates around the authority of the Minister of Finance as granted by the VAT Act, Section 7, subsection 4 thereof, granting him that authority to change the VAT rate, but subject to Parliament then passing legislation within 12 months to give effect to that announcement that the minister would have made. The DA is making the point that, this is engaging in lawmaking and legislation that has been delegated somewhat, according to the DA, in a manner that is unconstitutional to the executive, that is the minister.
Unfortunately, on this one, the process is very, very clear. The minister has got that power, but still the Parliament has to engage and agree to it. So there's checks and balances. So I actually don't understand why, when there's checks and balances, the DA will complain. Remember, the idea of doing that was to ensure that in the 1996 period, where we had a lot of challenges around our debt, which is similar today, and also a lot of contestation and a concern that, there have been some people who want to implement populist policies. Therefore, giving the minister that power was to ensure that we can get things done quicker, faster, but also call the minister to account through our parliament. So there's checks and balances here, so I don't see any issue. I'll take the 11 issue. If it was just a blank check, there was no transparency, there was no other process to effect the decision of the minister. So in this case, there is a process, and the J can go and fight it in parliament and lose, probably as they did in the sitting around the fiscal framework, which was approved by parliament with a slim majority.
So let's talk a bit about where this leaves us. So as I've been saying, the VAT increase is off the table and a lot of people are heaving a sigh of relief. But we still have that gap of 75 billion rand. When we were told that there would be this 30-day period that the fiscal framework would be adopted with the VAT baked into it, the VAT increase, there would be this 30-day period which would allow National Treasury and the Finance Minister to scrounge around and look for where they can get more revenue. There was a bit of good news from SARS talking about collecting more than had been declared at the time of the budget by about close to 9 billion rand. But that doesn't go anywhere near covering the hole that remains in our finances. Where does that leave us? I saw in the statement that the minister, for instance, is talking about expenditure review. So that talks about looking where can we cut.
There's too much fat in that budget. We're spending more and we're getting very little out of it. So we want to see the minister cutting more in departments so that we can be able, therefore, to reduce our expenditure. That's not necessary. And in doing so, have no need for us to have a borrowing requirement that needs to be filled. The SARS is working on new ways of increasing collection and therefore making sure that in the next budget cycle we're in a better position. So here it's in the minister's hand to try and cut as much as possible, working with other ministers where they've said, to ensure that our government becomes slimmer, but more important also, productivity is higher, so that the service to the South African people is offered at a much lesser cost than it is at the moment, where there's too much wasted in the system.
So too much fat, as you say, in the system that can still be trimmed. But this 75 billion rand, in terms of revenue, the revenue side of it, surmountable as far as you are concerned?
It's too early, Thulas. I think we need to think deeply and think seriously about the level of taxation and where it will come from, and allows us to implement its own systems and collect and go after those who have been unable to meet the constitutional demands of paying taxes like many other South Africans.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. Dr. Lumgile Mondi is a political economist as well as a senior lecturer of economics and business science at Wits University.
Save and win a car with Spar, for real. Stand to win one of 50 fiery red Hyundai Grand i10 sedans. Buy any participating products and swipe your rewards card to enter. Get 200-gram Jacob's Cronin coffee jar or 230-gram refill for $144.99, plus 400 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 1 litre Spar Long Life Milk, 6-pack for $89.99, plus 200 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Price is valid until 6 May, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
He's short, loud, and definitely not a licensed therapist, but he's asking the hard questions. It's Heart to Heart with Kevin, the only talk show where the guests spill the tea and Kevin spills the jokes. Real talk, real laughs, and real short host. Heart to Heart with Kevin, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on S3.
Fadlu Davis is back home to finish what he started in East Africa. But Steve Barker and his boys believe they can find an equalizer in their own backyard. Stellies collides with Wekundu Wamsimbazi. This is the second leg semi-final battle of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Catch the spectacular contest of African football. Stellenbosch FC versus Simba Sports Club. This Sunday, 27 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC One, and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
When using the road, please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. Ventertop Road in Northwest, R61 Tata in Eastern Cape, N2 Pongola in KwaZulu-Natal, R61 Mzamba in Eastern Cape, N2 Umkomas in Eastern Cape. Ensure that you, your loved ones, and all passengers arrive alive. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Wouldn't it be great, Zai, if we had an all-South African final in as far as the CAF Champions League is concerned?
Oh, my word.
Right?
I think all roads are leading to that possible South African final. It will be massive, Thulas. Imagine if we go through. Man, yes, it's a big night for us. Orlando Pirates, Mamelodi Sundowns aiming to book their spots in the CAF Champions League final. The Buccaneers are in Cairo to face Pyramids FC after a fiery first leg ended 0-0, while Sundowns, they'll face a familiar foe in Al Ahly with everything to play for. Pirates stunned the Red Devils in the group stage, and Sundowns are no strangers to shocking Cairo. A win or scoring a draw tonight, and we could be looking forward to an all South African final for the first time ever. In the meantime, Kaizer Chiefs will be back in action tomorrow. They host Marumo Gallants at the FNB Stadium in a crucial Betway Premiership clash. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. The Glamour Boys are clinging to 8th place on the log and know that anything less than a win could derail their push for a top 8 finish. Coach Nazruddin Nabi will want a strong showing from Bruce Bavuma in goal, and Bavuma has expressed his commitment to improving.
Listen, every game is difficult when you're playing for a team like Chiefs. Every team, when they play against us, they bring their A game, which is normal. We're used to it. And as you said, they have a very good team. And as a team, we know the things that we've done wrong throughout the season, the things that we have to fix as a team. So we're looking forward to the game, and I believe we're preparing well for it.
On to the Junior Springboks. They've arrived in Gqeberha to begin final preparations for the Rugby Championship Under-20, which kicks off at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. Head coach Kevin Foote says the team is excited to be in the Eastern Cape, where they'll face off against the Under-20 sides from Australia, Argentina and New Zealand.
It was a great start for us. Right from the beginning, the flight in, and when we arrived into the airport to have the dignitaries welcoming us, it felt really, really special and a great honour for us to have them there, and the Marimba band playing with such great energy. You can just feel that people are very grateful to have rugby in the city and have it at a national level. So that was a great start, and I think the players really appreciated that.
Tennis now. The world number 3 Carlos Alcaraz has withdrawn from the Madrid Open with a thigh injury, a blow for his French Open title defence preparations. The Spaniard, a 4-time Grand Slam winner, sustained the problem during his Barcelona Open final last Sunday, where he was defeated by Holger Rune. In the meantime, Lorenzo Sonego advanced to the second round of the Madrid Open. Straight sets was his win over Miromir Kekmanovic, 6-4, 7-5. Sonego next faces the Australian Alex de Minaur for a place in the third round. And the 2020 Olympic semi-finalist Gift Leotlela narrowly edging out his training mate Bayanda Walaza in the South African National Championships 100-meter final to be crowned South Africa's new sprint king. Leotlela gave everyone a reminder of what he could produce with a sub-10 run, and that was 9.99 seconds in the men's final, all happening in Potchefstroom. The 26-year-old defeated Walaza by the narrowest of margins in the final, clocking 9.99 to Walaza's 10. The Paris 2024 semi-finalist Benjamin Richardson took third place in 10.05 seconds. Let's hear from Gift Leotlela.
I knew what I did in that semi-final. I just had to do the same thing in the final, focus on myself and my execution and not worry about anything else. I tried not to panic, but I think that was the race for me. Just not to panic because I didn't have a great start. I was coming from behind, and it's Bayanda and Benjamin, they're quick, so I just had to stay composed. I've never had a South African senior title. This is my first one.
We'll be back in the fast lane on the Morning Brief Sport. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: the Usindiso building fire trial is expected to continue today in the High Court in Johannesburg, sitting in Palm Ridge. Yesterday, the court heard drugs did not seem to impair alleged arsonist Sitembi Somhlalose when he confessed to causing the fire in which 76 people died in 2023. The Enyobeni inquest in the East London Regional Court sitting in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape will continue today. It was postponed yesterday. And the Social Security Agency, SASSA, has cited preventing fraud related to identity misrepresentation as its reason for introducing a biometric process. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a quick one about Tshwane, Pretoria, that you need to know about. There's a pothole that's opened up on the N1 North going up into Rigel. We saw that, I think, yesterday morning. Last evening, it was really heavy going up through Rigel because of that. This morning, it's quite heavy. And, of course, we're at the cusp of a long weekend break. So that is probably the busiest route across the country, particularly coming out of Gauteng. That N1 North going up to Rigel. It's already slow. That is going to be a real pinch point today. Just keep that in mind. Now, Durban, torrential rain this morning. It really is bucketing down properly. We've been warning about this. Funny, it rained and then it sort of moved away and then it came back in a little bit earlier this morning. Flooding on the N2 between the airport and Kumashi, pretty extreme. Flooding on the M4 between Durban and Umhlanga. There's also a crash by Blue Lagoon. So both your N2 coming to Durban and the M4 both ways are heavy. You might be able to sneak through using Umhlanga Rocks Drive, but expect that to be quite busy as well. A lot of traffic on the Chris Hani option between sort of Umgena Road and the N2. Crash going north of Queen Nandi, very heavy from Cement Factory this morning. Flooding, extreme flooding, M19, Umgena Road under the N2. So there's some real heavy backlogging there. And it really is just a really tough morning. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Make sure it's absolutely essential to travel. If it's not, just don't travel. Sit tight, sit it out. It really is a pretty treacherous morning around Durban, and particularly a lot of flooding around the South Coast area as well. Just north of Funerinen's Pass, so Funrinen Village to Swinburne, a big multi-truck and vehicle crash this morning. Some heavy delays, particularly for on the northbound side, heading up towards Gauteng area. There's some big volumes as well on the N3. Early getaway into the weekend coming out of Heidelberg, leaving Joburg, so drive carefully. Cape Town, the N7 North is the problem this morning. Queuing at Mitchell's Plain, queuing Langa through to Epping, and then queues Goodwood through to Bosmansdam Road. Traffic all over that M7, N7. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation. The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndawling Lechela. Ndawling, let's start in mining news. Tell me about this warning coming through from Anglo American about a possible $1 billion hit. What's that about?
That's right, Thulasizwe. This is all because it's starting to account for a cost associated with restructuring the business. The costs include a $300 million cost in restructuring expenses, $200 million in taxes and transaction costs for the sale of its steel-making coal assets, and $400 to $500 million for the demerger of Amplats. Company CEO Duncan Warnblad said that the portfolio simplification will improve the group's investment proposition, particularly amid trade wars and economic uncertainty. Anglo says it's already received $870 million for its Jellenbach coal mine and expects to receive another $2 billion when Peabody Energy acquires its remaining steel-making coal assets. So while it will be losing some money, it will be gaining money off of the back of the sale of the assets. Now, the company aims to conclude several deals this year, including the sale of its nickel business and the divestment of Amplats, which is scheduled to be finalized by the end of June. Despite lower first quarter output for most minerals, Anglo has maintained its full-year production guidance, with copper production expected to rebound in the second half of the year.
Staying in the sector, tell me what Kumba Iron Ore has been saying about its outlook in light of a decline in production.
So they've reported a decline in iron ore production, and this comes for the first quarter of the year. Despite that, though, the iron ore miner is still confident it can achieve its full year output target of 35 to 37 million tons. And this comes after it reported a 6% increase in sales volumes in the same quarter, driven by a 5% improvement in Transnet's rail performance. Now, the company sold 9 million tons of iron ore in line with its production. Kumba achieved an average realized price of $98 per ton, 11% above the benchmark price. Kumba's strategic focus on operational excellence and cost optimization is expected to improve its resilience in a challenging global environment. So it says it believes it will be able to weather the tough times ahead of us. Zooming in on those operations, Sishen Mines production decreased by 9%. Kolomela Mines production increased by 12%. Kumba has 7.8 million tons of stock ready to be shipped at Saldanha Bay Port and is on track with its ultra-high dense medium separation plant at Sishen Mine to increase iron ore production on that front.
Tell us how the JSE as well as US markets closed, as well as an update on Asian markets.
So starting things off in Asia, equities are mostly in the green as investors eye trade talks with countries like South Korea and Japan said to be making progress with the Trump administration. With that, the Hong Kong Hang Seng is leading the gains on that front, up 1.4%. Meanwhile, in the US, futures are in positive territory. Besides those trade negotiations, there has been comments from two Fed officials about cutting interest rates, which also improved sentiment. Coming back home, green screens, the all share closing above the 90,000 mark, up 0.79%. The rand, however, under pressure as the process of the VAT hike U-turn has spurred some political uncertainty among traders. The rand is at 18.85 to the dollar this hour.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela. She'll be back with one more update for you, and that's coming up after 8:30, during which update she'll give you a sense of the kind of Friday you can expect in the markets today.
El Clasico is here. Barcelona takes on Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final. And you can catch every moment on S3 or stream live on SABC Plus. Watch two of the world's biggest teams fight for Spanish football's ultimate trophy. Don't miss out on the heart-pounding action. Head to sabcplus.com to register right now. Or tune into S3 on Saturday 26 April at 9:30 p.m. for the live broadcast. This is the Copa del Rey final. Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport, your home of great football. For the love of the game.
Your Sunday nights are about to get big on S3. We have some of the biggest movie titles that will take you on adventures that you simply cannot miss. Thomas arrives in a glade at the center of a giant maze. The race to escape the maze leads him to a journey. Should they escape, all questions will be answered. Tune into The Maze Runner, Sunday, the 27th of April. Maze Runner Darth Cure on the 4th of May. Maze Runner The Scorch Trials on the 11th of May. S3 Blockbuster Movies, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's get your perspectives on some of the stories we've been covering, but also other issues that may be exercising your mind this morning. Let me start with some of the voice notes before I turn to the calls.
Morning, Simelane. One of the things that is not being spoken about, the implication of withdrawal, is the fact that it means that there will be an unauthorized expenditure that will have taken place from the 1st of April until to date. In the event that the minister withdraws that framework, because currently, as we speak, national and provincial governments are spending on the budget.
All right. No, I hear what you're saying. So the expenditure and spending by provincial departments and others based on what was announced in the budget. It's all up in the air, isn't it? That's part of the uncertainty that we are all talking about. Let's see how it all unfolds by way of trying to resolve that, such that we are on firmer footing. Everyone is sure that what they are doing is within the bounds of the revenue raised as well as the expenditure that is envisaged to be met with that revenue.
Hey Thulas, I am supporting the EFF that Usgogo needs to go. His time is up. And for me, this is based on the lack of creativity, where someone just want to take an easy route on how they should raise funds. There's actually nothing that they are doing to motivate economic growth. It's all about taxing us and taxing us. And opposition parties actually can have a majority. They can find the finance minister, vote Gogo out, and we get a new finance minister. Thanks, Sponge here.
Bonnie, thank you. Why are you going to be spicy though? Referring to the finance minister there as the one with the hat. Of course, he wears his signature hat quite proudly. The journalist Sikonati Manjanja has made the point that as far as his reporting goes, the way this all unfolded was the minister woke up and basically told the Director General that let's raise VAT. And there wasn't much consultation or anything like that. That's the reporting according to Sikonati Manjanja, and I suppose that's what Bongi is talking about, creativity. And I suppose that conversation will amplify given where we are now, that they've been able to find ways around this issue and not needing to raise VAT, but actually be able to fund some of the priorities. I do expect that you can hear that conversation amplifying. Let me take a call that's related to what we are talking about. Michael in Cape Town, good morning. Also on the same issue of the finance minister.
Morning, Thulas, and the listeners. I've got 2 points and one challenge for you. Point one is, I think the effect we're seeing in terms of this budget, the voting and the framework, we keep attributing it to the GNU. It's not a GNU effect. It's more of a parliament that is not a majority of Luthuli House.
Sure.
For years, we've suffered this thing as a country that we might as well use the Luthuli House as parliament, because whatever is decided there, all those MPs will vote according to the party lines, not according to what makes sense to them as MPs. So we never had a sphere of government and parliament, a legislature that had a proper oversight over the executive. And for the first time now, we have parliament that is exercising its parliamentary duty with oversight of government.
Sure.
The second point is to us, there are many callers who keep calling and stating, and some political leaders who are stating the effect of the delayed budget, and making that as a result of the parties that do not want to support the budget as it is with the VAT increase. And I think that's very sad, because, I mean, we're trying to fix something here on one side, and I mean, the one person that can fix all of this is the minister, if he removes and the VAT as is done now, and we change what we need to do in order for us to move forward. And then I think those individuals need to look to the finance minister as somebody needs to correct. Lastly, the challenge for you, Thulas, I think the cost that we're not looking at is the executive cost, the cost of running government. The car that they buy, the expensive luxury SUVs that they have to buy. Why? Why are they not buying like Suzuki Pakis and driving around with them? Why do they have to cost that? To buy such expensive vehicles? The flight the flight cost, all the benefits that the executive has, I think that needs to be broken open for the public to understand that our tax money, the money that we give to these fund managers, if I shall call them that, to use that money to run the country, is mostly used by them for their luxury living. And before we raise that, let's remove that cost. And then, only then, when we have absolutely nothing, minimize the luxury living of the ministers and the executive, and then we can start saying we need to go to the taxpayer and pay a bit more.
Michael, thank you for that. And that challenge is accepted. It's a conversation that we should line up, that has to do with, everyone keeps talking about the costs of running the executive and the size of the executive at the moment. We should line up some kind of a conversation that says, what exactly is the cost? Because I've heard many people that say, you hear them saying that they've cut the VAT, but actually there's still a lot more that can still be cut by the cost, by way of the cost of of running government. Let's speak to Kirk in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Kirk. Also on the issue of the VAT reversal this morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, the VAT reversal is not surprising. What is also not surprising is the scramble amongst political parties to gain political points by taking ownership of responsibility for twisting the minister's arm, for twisting the ANZ's arm, I think is what worded. But what is actually more interesting for me is the fact that Sakina and Balula, the statement yesterday regarding the fact that he's surprised, or they are surprised, the ANC, I'm sure are surprised that the DA remains part of the GNU and that they haven't left the GNU.
Yeah.
For me, that symbolizes a bit of naivety or strategy, I'm not sure, because by the DA becoming part, or by parties becoming part of the GNU, none of them ever said that they're just going to toe the line. They all declared that they basically will follow their party line in terms of decision making and voting.
All right.
So it's surprising that he's taking that stance.
Yeah. All right,
and
Kirk.
make that announcement.
Kirk, thank you for that. We're battling a little bit with your line, but we got the point and the gist of what you are saying. Do drive safely there. That's Kirk in Cape Town. Let me move on to Eunice in Joburg. Good morning to you, Eunice. You want to pull the conversation in a different direction, and I appreciate that. Talk to me about the inquest into the death of Inkosi Albert Luthuli.
Yes, Thulas. Good morning to you and the listeners. Thulas, look, it's been more than 50 years since the chief passed away. And in terms of closure for the family, I think the inquest is necessary because it's, the family is one closure on these type of matters. And bringing it closer to home, Thulas, Chief Luthuli was a very, very personal friend of my late uncle. So much so that you recall that he was in the Groundwood area. My uncle was living in Sanger, which is now Guaduguza. And when he was banned at the time, the chief, his unofficial office was in my uncle's home because my uncle's shop was in the front and the house was at the back. So he was part of the family, so to say. And, that was where his office was. And you could corroborate this whatever I'm telling you, any one of the Luthuli family. And, it's like they say, what the media won't tell you is the chief was a lay preacher and my uncle was a practicing Muslim at the time. I'm talking in the 60s, and they had a very close relationship. So much so that even Madiba in those days, when they used to have clandestine meetings with the chief, my uncle was the link man. And when Madiba was released, if you could recall, I'll tell you a state secret. When his first meeting in Kings Park, when he went to the Kings Park rally, stadium there in Madiba, when he went to KZN, when he came out of prison, Madiba actually, everyone was, he was the toast of the world at that time, and everyone wanted to invite him, and Madiba then remembered, and he asked people to do inquiries to ask whether my uncle was still living, and he was living. He's passed on now for about 10 years.
What was your uncle's name?
Ghulam Suleiman.
Ghulam Suleiman. Now, what a beautiful story.
Yes, he's actually written a book. You'll see it at the CNA, In the Shadow of Luthuli. And Madiba actually, with Alfred and Zoe and others, went and spent the night with my uncle just to reminisce on, old times. He was no high-ranking member of the ANC. He did what he had to do. But, so that's just the story I want to relay.
Beautiful.
And you could verify whatever I've told you with any one of the Luthuli family.
Appreciate it. Thank you for that, Eunice. What a nice take on a story that is of national importance, but just giving it that personal touch, that family history, that also exposes the linkages of how the people of South Africa from all walks of life have always been driven to struggle together to build the society that we are still in the process of trying to build today.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just an update on that pothole on the M1 in Pretoria. It is currently being repaired. It's the M1 North going into Rigel, so some lane closures there, pushing traffic back to Buerta Avenue. It's a high-volume day today as well on that one. Durban, very, very serious and significant flooding. The section between sort of central Durban, Umbilo side, if you like, right through towards Mhlanga. The N2 is underwater. Chris Hani through Durban North is underwater, submerged, not passable. M19, N2 Umghetto Springfield underwater. Riverside is underwater. Umhlanga Rocks Drive underwater. M4 Umhlanga through to Durban underwater. It's a very, very tough morning for Durban motorists. Our advice has been travel only if absolutely essential. Wait for the rain to ease, the flooding to subside, and then have a go. Durban is traffic heavy gridlock because of the torrential rain and the resultant flooding. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
In an apartment far, far away.
Mara Springs is not that far, Mos.
Who's the narrator here?
Sorry.
Exists a room dedicated to who Morena refers to as the GOAT. From his very first soccer boots, right down to the shirt that he wore in his final World Cup, Morena has it all. Ask Morena anything about the GOAT, and the answer will roll off his tongue like second nature. Morena is not just obsessed. Morena is the GOAT's super fan.
Uswile boy, it's me, super fan.
Yeah, sure, boy. Tune in to Superfan Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. on S3 and watch contestants compete in challenges related to their favorite artists, ultimately lip-syncing to determine the ultimate superfan.
The Red Devils want to add more heat in Cairo to make life difficult for Masandawana, but Kabuyelo refused to shake and break. They are on a mission to elevate their game and march to the final with big smiles. It is do or die. This is the second leg semi-final encounter of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Catch the incredible action of African football. Al Ahly FC versus Mamelodi Sundowns FC. This Friday, 25 April at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You wouldn't want to pay more than you need to for your cell phone bill, so why overpay for your car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Jermaine, a 43-year-old man, is a real Outsurance client who saves a whopping 360 Rand a month on his 2021 Mazda 3 1.5 Dynamic. Now, that's what I call a real deal. Why pay more? Switch and save today. Say SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So we've been watching the story out of KwaZulu-Natal. Allegations of sexual misconduct involving a teacher at Pitlochry Primary School in Westville have sparked public outrage, with parents and community members demanding swift action. The Provincial Department of Education has confirmed that an internal investigation has been concluded and is now under review by the head of department for appropriate action. And this while police have also launched a parallel investigation into possible child grooming. I'm joined now by V. Gani, who is chairperson of the KwaZulu-Natal Parents Association. Good morning and thank you for your time. Tell me a bit more about this incident. What do we know about it? When was it reported? And has the action that has been taken been adequate in your view?
Yeah, look, we've been advised last week that the incident was reported to the Department of Education about 2 weeks ago. And we were quite shocked that there was no action that was taken. Especially in a case where it involves allegations of this nature and where they are so serious that they would derail any sort of investigation and also put the victims, in a dangerous position. So what had happened was we were told that the information was given to the Department of Education about 2 weeks ago, and nothing had happened. And then last week I got called and I was informed that this is what has happened. And since then, the educator had been removed from the school. And I was just disappointed that, it had taken so long and it had to become a very public thing for the department to act. So we were very disappointed under that circumstance. But however, look, we condemn these acts. We condemn anything. It's actually criminal that educators, people in schools who are meant to
to be the parents in loco who are meant to replace the parents and take care of our children. When allegations of this nature surfaces, you begin to wonder exactly what's happening in our schools today. This is not, and I must stress that there are thousands and thousands of educators across the country that take care of our children and protect them and do what they need to do and act like that. But there are a few that get into the system undetected, and then they use the system and the school itself for the nefarious activities. And this must be condemned, and action must be taken.
And from what I understand, when the incident was first reported, you've been saying, as the Parents Association, that the action should have been swifter because it was submitted with evidence. When we say evidence, are we talking about screenshots here? Because the way I understand the allegation, it has to do with an exchange of inappropriate messages or sending of inappropriate messages to this 12-year-old child.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit it spot on. There was an allegation, and then the allegation was substantiated by evidence, prima facie evidence. That itself, and based on the nature of the case, that itself should have been acted upon immediately, within a day or two, at the most. It should have been acted on. So, we're going to certainly question as to why it didn't happen at the time when it was reported, and what kind of delayed the process. Because you're not talking about theft in a school or something. You're talking about a very serious allegation, one of sexual misconduct, and you have to err on the side of caution, which means that you have to remove the person and then do your investigation. And there wasn't much to do. What they did on Tuesday, this was a couple of days ago. What they did on Tuesday, they should have done 2 weeks ago when it was first reported. So I'm disappointed that it's taken that, and we don't know. We're going to have to find out, what happened and who dropped the ball there. But we also believe that, this is not the first time. There are allegations that this is not the first time that this particular person had been charged. So I don't know. The department is very tight-lipped about the person himself. The department is very tight-lipped about that. So
and in fact, that allegation that this is not the first time that these accusations of this nature have been leveled at this particular educator, this particular individual at the school, I've also seen that. What does that say to us at a broader level about systems meant to be in place to guard against individuals that are prone to committing acts of this nature, simply transferring from one area to another, but continuing to be within the system?
Well, absolutely. I'm very cautious that there's, employee-labor relations issues involved and all of that. So I can't tell you, if the previous charge was there, and indeed what was the outcome and the reason why it didn't carry through. But again, it shows us that, there's a weak link in the chain, somehow that we let these things go undetected. And you know what? Had we been stronger the first time around, the chances are we would have prevented this particular incident from happening. So we need to we need to treat it a bit more seriously. But I understand, and you know this as well. There's employee, there's labor issues, and then things become very technical to a sense where sometimes some people walk away from issues on a technicality rather than, and so we have to be careful about that. But again, we strongly condemn, as I think anybody would. Our children need to be safe in schools. They need to be protected in schools. When parents send their children to school, they send them with the understanding that every possible care is going to be taken for the protection and the guidance of that child. And then when you have adults in school who then abuse their position and their power, and when they start to conduct themselves in this particular way, then we have to wonder, how is it that we allow these things to happen, especially in this day and age, where there is so much of information out there. We're not dealing with 20 years ago. We're dealing with now where there's so much information out there. Our country is so wrong against GBV and all of those things. And then, despite having all of those things in place and all these organizations and the information and the wealth of information,
then people still do this is just unacceptable.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's V. Gani, who is the chairperson of the KwaZulu-Natal Parents Association. Bringing us to 8 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
In our top stories, Usindiso building fire trial continues today and scholar transport driver accused of raping a 5-year-old. Good morning. The Usindiso building fire trial is expected to continue today in the High Court in Johannesburg, sitting in Palm Ridge. Yesterday, the court heard drugs did not seem to impair alleged arsonist Sitembiso Mhlalose when he confessed to causing the fire, in which 76 people died in 2023. Mhlalose's lawyer argued his client was under the influence of drugs when he made the alleged confession. Mhlalose has pleaded not guilty to all counts of murder, attempted murder and arson. The court interpreter Mpho Matsewane explains what happened on the day of the alleged confession.
The accused person appeared to be of sound and sober senses. However, what was striking about him was that he appeared to be burdened. Added to that, whilst we were proceeding with the confession, he would respond before I would interpret to him, which gave an impression that he could comprehend English.
The Enyobeni inquest in the East London Regional Court sitting in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape will continue today. It was postponed yesterday to allow for the viewing of video footage of what happened on the night 21 patrons died at Enyobeni Tavern in 2022. The owner of the tavern, Siyakangela Ndevu, requested the footage for verification of the events that unfolded. Ndevu disputed the evidence of some witnesses that there was chaos. A 19-year-old who was among the patrons who survived said the tavern was overcrowded. Social Security Agency SASSA has cited preventing fraud related to identity misrepresentation as its reason for introducing a biometric process. It says the mandatory biometric enrollment and identity verification process will be introduced on the 5th of next month. SASSA spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi.
This initiative aims to enhance the security and accuracy of client identification within the agency system. Beginning on the 5th of May 2025, all new clients who use alternative forms of identification other than the standard 13-digit South African ID number, as well as existing clients undergoing reviews or changes to their personal information, will be required to undergo compulsory biometric enrollment. This measure is part of SASSA's ongoing effort to improve the integrity and efficiency of its system and how it services clients.
A scholar transport driver has been arrested for allegedly raping a 5-year-old learner in the Mafefe area outside Libuahomo. Police say the learner was allegedly sexually assaulted between January and March this year. The alleged incidents came to light when the child told a guardian. The incidents allegedly happened inside the scholar transport vehicle after other learners had been dropped off. Police spokesperson Malisela Lidwaba says the suspect will face a rape charge when he appears in court next week.
The suspect allegedly threatened the victim not to report the incident, but she finally disclosed to her grandmother during the Easter weekend. A case of rape was opened, which was transferred to the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit for further investigation. The suspect was subsequently arrested on Thursday.
And finally, a medical team treating former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro after surgery says his health condition has deteriorated. On Wednesday, a Supreme Court official summoned Bolsonaro and gave him 5 days in which to present his defense against charges that he had plotted a military coup against President Lula. The BBC's Leonardo Rocha has the details.
The former president, who is 70, he's been in hospital for nearly 2 weeks. He was admitted with severe pain and he underwent intestinal surgery for about 12 hours. So it's a very delicate situation. He's had many problems, 6 operations, I believe, since he was stabbed during the electoral campaign in 2018.
Recapping the top story, the Usindiso building fire trial is expected to continue today in the High Court in Johannesburg, sitting in Palm Ridge. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Durban first up. Significant and substantial flooding issues this morning. The rain really came down early. It still is bucketing down. It's the section really between Durban and Mhlanga that is of major concern. There is flooding on multiple routes, flooding on the highways on the N2 coming through Mhlanga towards Kormashu, flooding on the M4 between Mhlanga and Blue Lagoon, flooding, very bad flooding. Submerged route is Chris Hani through Durban North, flooding on the M19, Umgeta Road underneath the N2, got vehicles submerged in that as well. It really is a very difficult morning. Our advice, if you don't have to travel, if it's not essential, if it's not absolutely essential to travel through Durban, don't do it. Ring ahead, say you're going to be late, ring ahead, reschedule, ring ahead, say you're going to come in sort of midday, wait for the rain to stop, the flooding to subside, and then have a crack at it. It's very significant congestion as you just run into multiple routes that are closed across the region. Also, in the middle of all of that, a crash taking a while to clear up on the N2 North at Queen Nundy Drive, so big backlogs this morning from the M7. There's also a lot of traffic between Toti and Chatsworth as well coming through on that section of the N2. Other regions across the nation, the N3 in Joburg, pretty heavy this morning from Germiston through towards Galulis. Crash on the Mike 1 at Ormonde causing delays. The rest of the highway network's looking all right. Pretoria's N1, pothole repairs at Rigel. That's a big queue of traffic on a busy Friday with a backlog down to Buata Avenue. And Cape Town, pretty gentle conditions there as well. You will hit some delays though with a big volume N2 that is busy out of town through Somerset West. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's Kaizer Chiefs and the final push for top 8 continues tomorrow. They host Marumo Gallants at FNB Stadium in the Betway Premiership action. And Dricus du Plessis saying he's not injured and there'll be a fight announcement coming soon. All the details just before 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 8 on this Friday. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm taking your calls on some of the topics that we have raised up to this point, as well as any other issues that you may be thinking about this morning and wanting to share your views and perspectives with the rest of us. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. But coming up over the next few minutes, let me quickly flag for you. We've got two quick stories that we want to tell you about. The one has to do with the road safety record in our country. While the country is not the country with the worst death rate on the roads in the world, as has been claimed elsewhere, it still remains a country with a high mortality rate in as far as crashes are concerned. So we'll give you an insurer's perspective into some of the factors that are at play in as far as the deaths on our roads are concerned, because make no mistake, they are quite high. The number of people who die on our roads annually is quite high. So we'll be talking to Tarina Flock in the next few minutes from Old Mutual, who will be sharing those perspectives, unique perspectives of an insurer around car crashes. And then a bit later on within this half hour, we'll then focus on, the concern about the surge in phenomena such as job market fraud, including fake qualifications, identity theft, as well as financial misrepresentation. We'll have that conversation with Jennifer Buck-Hazen from Managed Integrity Evaluation. So we'll be talking a bit about what's behind the rise in those phenomena. So that's how we are looking within this half hour. As I said, give me a call and weigh in on these and other matters. The third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. #Your Screen, Your Story. Together, we make it happen.
Fadlu Davis is back home to finish what he started in East Africa. But Steve Barker and his boys believe they can find an equalizer in their own backyard. Stellies collides with Wekundu Wamsimbazi. This is the second leg semi-final battle of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Catch the spectacular contest of African football. Stellenbosch FC versus Simba Sports Club. This Sunday, 27 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC One, and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Meet Maria. Meet her family, the Ramirez. One wrong step and they will have you swimming with the fishes. Meet Amadeo, a trained lawyer and member of the rival business clan, the Mateus. The two fall in love, and Maria's dreams of a happily ever after change when Madeo is murdered at their wedding. Their daughter, Jo, despises her mother's humble beginnings and will do anything to steal all of Maria's fortune. This is the world of Sweet Diva. Airs weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
12 minutes after 8, you will have picked up a palpable sense of relief based on the hope that when the final tally comes in, this year's Easter weekend will have seen a significant decline in the number of road crashes and fatalities. Preliminary data certainly points in that direction, with the Transport Minister Barbara Creecy noting a few days ago a significant decline in crashes and fatalities in 7 provinces, and saying that Limpopo's N1 road, for example, recorded 0 fatalities over the Easter weekend. However, our roads remain perilous, with untold carnage annually, with statistics pegging the average number of road traffic deaths at 22 people per 100,000 people that die in this country. So let's get a perspective from Darina Flock, who is Managing Director at Old Mutual Insure Elite Risk. Good morning to you, Darina, and thank you for your time. So we wanted to get the perspective of an insurer around the factors behind the high crash rates as well as the high death rates from those crashes in this country. What are some of the factors that you pick up from your perspective?
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. I tried to look at various reports, and it's very clear that the overwhelming cause of road accidents in this country can be allocated to human factors. And I'm talking about 87%. So we may be talking about the state of our roads, of our infrastructure, but human factors play definitely the biggest role in the danger on our roads. These include things like fatigue, speeding, dangerous overtaking, and then of course, as this Zitobi report mentioned, alcohol consumption. And we see it in our rejections as well. We don't look at fatalities, but because we don't always have that data. Sure. But the data shows us that, I almost haven't seen one accident description this year that's a serious accident description that did not relate to human factors. So, yeah.
So in terms of the human factors that you allude to, talk to me about the role of driving while under the influence of alcohol. You flagged that as one of the issues that come forward. I imagine that's behind many of the cases that you have to deal with, especially where it ends up being a rejection of a claim.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not aware of any insurer that will pay a claim if the driver if the damage was caused directly by the driver being under the influence of any substance. The concerning thing is that this report says that 57.5% of road traffic fatalities in South Africa in 2024 related to the consumption of alcohol. So that is a seriously concerning a piece of statistic. Of course, also taking into consideration that I think it was last year Easter was about 34% of road accident deaths related to pedestrians.
Yeah.
So the long and the short of it is that drivers must take care to adhere to the rules of the road, and make sure that you rest, because fatigue and of course being distracted, like looking at your phone, these things all contribute to the high accident rates that we have.
All right, I've got to thank you for that and those perspectives. That's Darina Flog. She is Managing Director at Old Mutual Insure Elite Risk.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So as the country's unemployment rate climbs above 32% in terms of the narrow definition, companies are facing a surge in job market fraud, including fake qualifications, identity theft, and financial misrepresentations. With many businesses cutting hiring costs and screening processes, the environment is becoming increasingly vulnerable to deceptive job seekers. Managed Integrity Evaluations, in their latest report, they warn that without proper checks, companies risk serious financial, legal, and reputational consequences. Let's speak to Jennifer Buck-Hazen, who is Head of Marketing at Managed Integrity Evaluation. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. When we talk, the word I use is surge in job market fraud. Is that word accurate in terms of describing what you are observing in the market?
Good morning. Most definitely. So, you've just mentioned the unemployment rate that is very high in South Africa, and it's expecting to rise above the current 32% that it is at the moment. And we've seen that, there's many candidates, competing for the same job opportunities in the market. Now, my apologies. Now, with the misrepresentation, in some cases, there's people that want to make themselves stand out, and they might be embellishing some information on their CVs or whatever the case might be. Other factors, an individual might be struggling to find employment with their current credentials, or the specific roles that they're applying for need a specific subject with a specific mark, or whatever the case might be. And due to desperation, they can then go and tamper with those documents, and if you do that, that is seen as fraud. So it is due to high unemployment and desperation in the job market. But now, on the other hand, looking at it, it can also be that it's become so easy to obtain these illegal documents. You can do a simple search on social media, and you can buy biometric certificates. So there's many factors that are playing a part, but we've seen a constant increase and high numbers of misrepresentation of qualifications in the market over the last 5 years. And
you can say this, Jennifer, because you've studied some 3.2 million transactions. Which ones are more prominent? Which ones are more prevalent? Is it a simple matter of embellishing the title that I hold at SAFM and say, instead of saying, I'm an anchor and broadcaster, saying that I'm a bespoke conversation facilitator, initiator, or something like that? Or is it the more serious ones that talk to claiming that I have a doctorate when I just don't have it?
Yes, well, there's so many things to look at, and it really does depend on what the companies look for in a candidate. Now, you mentioned if you're looking at a person working in journalism or in broadcast, you can go and sit there and you have this awesome personality, and you can blow them away. And you might say that you have a skill in something that you are not, you've worked in it in the past, but it wasn't really something you've done on a day-to-day basis. Now, that's one thing where you can tell a white lie or try to make you sound a bit better. But if you start talking about things that, a qualification, if you claim that you have your journalism qualification, for instance, but you never went to study further after school, but you maybe worked in broadcast or in journalism some way, then that is a cause for concern for an organization. And if you are sitting in front of a person, you are blowing them away with your awesome personality, but you are not qualified and they're looking for a qualified person, that is a problem. And that's why it's so important for organizations to make sure that they don't take anything at face value, that they go through a rigorous screening process to make sure that the person they're employing are who they say they are, they have the qualifications and the necessary skills, and they've gone through the screening process.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. That's Jennifer Park-Hazen, who is Head of Marketing at Managed Integrity Evaluation.
In just 10 years, over 850 million winners have shared more than 31 billion rand with the National Lottery. That's not a dream, that's real money, won by real people, right here in Mzansi. So the question is, why not you? The next winner could come from your hometown. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Handa, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery. What matters is still coming up. It's a massive football rivalry. It is one of the biggest football derbies in the world. Amakosi clashes with the Buccaneers at the Calabash. This is the Betway Premiership. Experience the Soweto Derby, Kaizer Chiefs versus Orlando Pirates on Saturday, 3 May at 2 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Your Sunday nights are about to get big on S3. We have some of the biggest movie titles that will take you on adventures that you simply cannot miss. Thomas arrives in a glade at the center of a giant maze. The race to escape the maze leads him to a journey. Should they escape, all questions will be answered. Tune into The Maze Runner, Sunday, the 27th of April. Maze Runner Darth Cure on the 4th of May. Maze Runner The Sports Trials on the 11th of May. S3 Blockbuster Movies, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's get more of your perspectives. Let me start with Crispin in Durban. Crispin, good morning, my good friend. I thought you had abandoned me. It's been a while. Talk to me about the role of white men in South African politics.
So let me just stop in here. What intrigues me is just how powerful the white South African men in the diaspora are. Obviously, Elon Musk, but that's well known that there's a kind of South African cabal of white men in the U.S. They're very close to Trump. Gary Ledner, the so-called liberal family of South African businesses, who in reality donated to the National Party, who's a major influence on Keir Starmer and has pushed the politics of the Labour Party severely to the right, in fact. So I'm thinking about this and thinking, how come this group of men who've been sort of sidelined a bit in history occupy such a prominent role internationally? And I think it's this. That this is the first group of white men who've been sidelined from positions of power by new elites coming in. And so the politics of their resentment and their sense of injustice at being dethroned is very popular in many quarters, even in so-called liberal quarters of the West. And I think they have a disproportionate influence on politics because of that. They've captured a sense of white threat and no longer being necessarily the dominant player in the world.
Is it that sense of, if you are used to injustice, any sense of restoring justice feels like an injustice to you? Is that what you are reading into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Trump picks up on, bizarre stuff about white people being oppressed in South Africa. come on, guys. I'm a white South African. I know that so many things about my life are just so much easier, less violent, more accommodating than for the great majority, 90%, 95% of South Africans. So it's that idea of being able to turn ourselves into victims and playing on that. By the way, I mean, the person alleged to have founded QAnon is actually a South African living in South Africa. So these bizarre, conspiracies about what's happening with us, white replacement, all of this stuff has been, I think, promoted by this group of aggrieved South African
Crispin,
white men.
let's leave it there for this morning. You've gotten us thinking, as always. That's Crispin in Durban weighing in there. Let me move on and quickly take a voice note that has to do with, earlier on we were talking about, before you talk vet, I think someone suggested how far is the conversation about how much it costs to run the executive, as well as the other amenities that are extended to members of the executive.
Good morning, Thulas. It's Robert Kelvin Jimistin. Our table motion is to reduce the cabinet. Cyril Ramaphosa should reduce the cabinet into 27 ministers. All the deputies must be out. Even the Minister of Finance must be out. I thank you.
Yeah, of course, I think it was Action SA that tabled, that was going to table, or they've already tabled a private member's bill that will overhaul, if passed. I don't know if it will be passed, to be honest. If passed, it would overhaul the whole system, especially as it relates to the positions around deputy ministers. Thank you for those. We'll come back to more of your calls and WhatsApp voice notes a bit later on in the show.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. We are hearing from Bruce Vuma talking about doing his best with every passing game at Kaizer Chiefs.
Oh, yeah. They want to show up for the big matches, even against the smaller teams. More glamour for the glamour boys. And this is this happening tomorrow. We've got the big push for Chiefs, top 8 finishing. And Marumo Gallants will be their opponent waiting at FNB Stadium in the Betway Premiership. Currently 8th on the log. Amakosi are under pressure to bag 3 points and avoid slipping further down the log. Coach Nazruddin Nabi wants a strong showing from Bruce Vuma, and of course he's expressed his commitment to improving.
Listen, every game is difficult when you're playing for a team like Chiefs. Every team, when they play against us, they bring their A game, which is normal. We're used to it. And as you said, they have a very good team. And as a team, we know the things that we've done wrong throughout the season, the things that we have to fix as a team. So we're looking forward to the game, and I believe we're preparing well for it.
Now, Chiefs are winless in their last 5 league outings, but still in the running for silverware with the Nedbank Cup Clash final against Orlando Pirates on the 10th of May. Kickoff tomorrow against Marumo Gallants is at 3 p.m. in Soweto. And it's Massive Friday for South African football as Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns aim to book their spots in the CAF Champions League final. The Buccaneers are in Cairo to face Pyramids FC after a fiery first leg ended 0-0, while Sundowns face a familiar foe in Al Ahly with everything to play for. Pirates stunned the Red Devils in the group stage, and Sundowns no strangers to shocking in Cairo. A win or draw tonight and we could be looking at an all South African final for the first time ever. Let's go to rugby. The junior Springboks have arrived in Gqeberha to begin the final preparations for the Rugby Championships Under 20, which kicks off at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. Head coach Kevin Foote says the team is excited to be in the Eastern Cape. They'll face off against Australia, Argentina and New Zealand. He also is crediting the junior box medical team for keeping the players in top condition.
Again, the medical team have done a really good job ensuring that the players are fit, and we've got 31 really good, keen players ready to go. So selection will be a challenge for us now, which is a good thing. But just the main thing is making sure that the players are calm, they have clarity, and we can start to connect and start to build our process into the championship.
Tennis world number 3 Carlos Alcaraz has withdrawn from the Madrid Open. That's due to a thigh injury, which is a huge blow for his French Open title defense preparations. The Spaniard, a 4-time Grand Slam winner, sustained the problem during his Barcelona Open final defeat against Holger Rune. Here's Carlos Alcaraz.
It is what it is. Tennis is really demanding sport. Playing, week after week. So many matches in a row, and you have to hear your body sometimes and take difficult decisions. But I will come back stronger. I will come back, with a lot of power for the next tournaments. But I'm really disappointed.
And finally, South Africa's UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis has shut down rumours of injuries, saying he's healthy and never pulled out of a title defence. The champ took to social media to call the speculation entertaining, insisting he's already discussing a fight date with the UFC. His next bout is expected to headline UFC 317 during International Fight Week in June, and that's in Las Vegas, with the Russian wrestler Khamzat Chimaev tipped as his likely opponent. An official fight announcement is expected soon. Well, we'll bring you more of that and the global sporting scene with John Gericke. He's up here on SAFM at 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the South African National Taxi Council has defended government's decision to allocate 408 million rand from the COVID-19 relief fund to the taxi industry. The Usindiso building fire trial is expected to continue today in the High Court in Johannesburg, sitting in Palm Ridge. Yesterday, the court heard drugs did not seem to impair alleged arsonist Thembiso Mhlalose when he confessed to causing the fire in which 76 people died in 2023. And the Enyobeni inquest in the East London Regional Court sitting in Mdantsane will continue today. It was postponed yesterday to allow for the viewing of video footage of what happened on the night 21 patrons died at the tavern in 2022. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's been a very tough and difficult morning for motorists across eThekwini. A major sort of torrential storm moved through between Durban and the Mhlanga about 6 o'clock this morning. It came earlier, then it disappeared offshore, then it came back and just dropped even more rain. So multiple routes are underwater, including the M4 between Mhlanga and Durban. Chris Hani, probably not passable. Durban North, that route is completely submerged. Flooding along the Mhlanga Rocks Drive. So your three big routes there. Also the N2 coming from the airport down to Komashi. So your big four routes linking you from Mhlanga down to Durban are all underwater with some major traffic delays. The M19 Umgena Road submerged around the N2 bridge. So there's some issues there. Inanda Road in from Newlands down through Parlock. There's some flooding on that section. The N3 inbound from from Paradise Valley through Spaghetti Junction in towards Sherwood territory. Some really big traffic coming through. That's Durban. There's a lot of flooding as well around the South Coast area between sort of Toti and right down south to Port Edward. There was some major rains there overnight last night, which has left a lot of flooding as well. Please take it easy. If it's not absolutely essential to travel through those affected areas, do it later today. Other major delays across the country. The M1 North through Pretoria, pothole repair works underway at Rigel Avenue. Friday ahead of a long weekend. You've got some big traffic backlogging already to Boeta Avenue. And Cape Town, it's pretty easy Friday into town. There's a lot of roadworks going on though just south of town around sort of Lansdowne and Turfall down through Wetton. So there's a lot of congestion around the traffic restrictions in that part of Cape Town. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. So producer price, the producer price index is the other element that we watch opposite the consumer price index. Tell me about producer prices easing in March.
That's right, Sula. So more encouraging inflation numbers. Producer prices slowed to 0.5% in March, down from 1% in February. Now, the decline was driven by lower petroleum prices, with diesel and petrol prices falling 10.8% and 10.6% year-on-year, respectively. However, monthly price pressures remained firm, with producer prices increasing 0.6% month-on-month, largely due to higher cost of food, beverages, and tobacco. Now, the PPI for intermediate manufactured goods eased to 7.4% on an annual basis, while mining PPI accelerated to 5.9%. The cost of electricity and water eased to 2.3% on a monthly basis, but remained at 10.8% on a year-on-year basis. In the agri-sector, annual inflation slowed sharply to 2.4%, down from 7.6% in February, and this was due to a decline in crop and horticulture prices. Economists, in the meantime, expect a moderate increase in overall PPI for the year, with potential upward pressure from higher global food prices, a weaker rand, and the electricity tariff hikes.
In company news, some good news for Goldfields in as far as their operations in Ghana go.
That's right, Silas. And just last week, we heard that the Ghanaian government had cancelled its lease, but it looks like they've made a U-turn on that, and they've reached an agreement with Ghanaian authorities to continue operating its Damang mine for another year, despite, of course, the previous plans to stop operations. The agreement is conditional on the company hiring more workers and investing in extending the mine's lifespan. And now a new 12-month mining lease will be issued to a Goldfields subsidiary pending parliamentary ratification in May. Goldfields Chair Yunus Suleiman welcomed the agreement, expressing the company's commitment to operating in the West African country and contributing to the Ghana's mining expertise and development. Now, as part of the agreement, Damang will continue to process surface stockpiles, while Goldfields awaits the necessary permits to recommence open pit mining. The company has submitted a plan to restart operations, which includes continued employment and job creation. Goldfields will also finalize a detailed bankable feasibility study to extend the life of Damang mine by the end of the year. The agreement also includes a plan for a smooth transition of ownership to the people of Ghana as part of the government's drive to increase local participation and ownership in the mining industry. Goldfields currently holds a 90% stake in Damang, which recently transitioned to processing stockpiles after reaching the end of its active mine lifespan.
I haven't thrown a curveball at you in a long time, Dowling, so I'm acting under mandate here. One of our listeners wants to know if you've noticed that OpenAI now has over 400 million users per week. Have you tracked that story?
Oh my gosh, I have not tracked that story. That's something interesting I can go through over the weekend. Okay.
Absolutely, and come back and report extensively on it. So what kind of a Friday can we expect in the markets?
So we're likely in for a mixed start to the day on the local front, following global peers. Over on the currency front, the rand, of course, still on the back foot following the VAT hike U-turn, which has somewhat spurred some political uncertainty due to the process that was undertaken. The currency currently sitting at 18.84 to the dollar this hour. Over in Wall Street, futures are in the green. Traders on that front digesting earnings reports from tech counters Intel and Alphabet. There is also a turnaround in sentiment on that front following comments from Fed officials around interest rate cuts. Then over in Asia, those markets are on track to end the day positively, and the week off positively as well.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela, always right on the money. She's kept you updated with news on the economic front as well as business news and the markets over the last 3 hours.
SABC Technology Business is a unit which provides services to internal and external clients. Our strategic objective is to ensure that SABC has the appropriate and reliable technological infrastructure for production, post-production, digital media content available to the public. Our range includes IP portable production studio facilities and the digitization of legacy content. Our outside broadcast vans, fully equipped to follow you anywhere and everywhere. For competitive pricing, contact bookings facilities at sabc.co.za.
The confession booth. A place where the sin-laden soul can offload their transgressions, all in the hopes of finding reprieve for their sins. Stolen your co-worker's lunch? Then the ordinary confession booth with your regular priest will do. But murdered your long-time nemesis and dumped their body in a vat of acid? Oh, then you better hope you're not in Father Brown's confession booth, because he is bent on catching all the bad guys. Tune in to Father Brown, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m, only on S3. Open up.
After a 0-all draw in Mzansi, the Pyramids are confident they will complete their agenda with victory on home soil. But Rivero's boys believe they will end their long-distance trip to Egypt with an impressive performance. This is the second leg semi-final clash of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the thrilling encounter of African football. Pyramids FC versus Orlando Pirates this Friday, 25 April at 7:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 2 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me take a call. Let me start with you, Slee, in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Slee. You want to talk to me about protection of kids in schools?
Yes, good morning to us. This conversation is very hurtful, because it's something that a lot of us kids of the 80s grew up with, and especially in rural provinces, in provinces such as the Eastern Cape, have a lot of rural areas, because it's normalized. That's where the problem is. It's normalized. Grooming in those communities is normalized. And the reason why it is normalized is because it is treated as a burden that the girl child should bear. It's a burden of shame, of saying, it's words such as, lo mntana uthanda ukujola ngabantu abadala. Uthanda utitshara. So then it's like the girl's fault. It's the girl child's fault, and nobody looks at it as grooming. And the teachers are almost sort of hailed. Yo, teachers bandani uthandwa ngabantwana abaningi.
Slee, you've got me a bit emotional because I identify with what you're talking about. I identify because, like you, I grew up in a rural province in Mpumalanga, and those societal attitudes you're talking about, they prevailed. And you say, as children of the 80s, I grew up in that period, and exactly what you're describing is something that I'm very familiar with. I had to grow up to start analyzing and looking at these phenomena with a new lens, to realize what was happening was child abuse. It wasn't a case of these girls love dating teachers. There's no such thing as a girl who's dating a teacher. There's child abuse that is actually at play there. So I identify exactly with what you're talking about.
Exactly. And I feel like it's about time our legislation becomes very tough around accusations that come place, because the reason why these teachers are able to move from province to province or school to school without being scrutinized is because these cases end up at accusation level, and they can invoke their constitutional rights of, I have not been found guilty, I should not be denied employment. So I feel like just when a case is being brought against a teacher, there should be a database that states that a national database available to all schooling institutions to say this accusation was brought against the teacher.
Thank you for raising that. It's an important conversation, and let's hope that we elevate it and actually update in terms of what is the situation now, because the experiences that Slee is sharing are, the one I'm sharing as well are from a few years ago. But I wonder to what extent has those societal understandings of what's at play here, to what extent has that changed? Les in the Western Cape, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about value-added tax?
Yeah, Thulasizwe, I want to talk about value-added tax and within the GNU premises or partners. So what I see, some of the GNU partners, I can say most of them, they don't have weight in a GNU. The reason why I'm saying they don't have weight, I see the Treasurer and the Minister of Finance announce the reversal of the VAT without consultation. However, we have got the DA and the Freedom Front Plus. The DA took a very serious decision to take VAT hike to the court, of which that is the influencing factor that makes the ANC to reverse the VAT.
Yeah.
So in this case, I see all those small parties are blowing like a wind for the cabinet post. And then if you can check here, there are some, they are very much scornful and spiteful against DA because the DA has got so many weight. And then the last thing is some of the parties are acting as a DA traitors. Those are the parties like Action South Africa of Amin Mashaba and Boza of Musmaimane. And those leaders, they've been given chances by DA under the veil of open opportunity for all because they were unknown and they became well known through the DA. So people, the last thing, what I'm saying is let's not operate on hate or anxiety or emotions. Let's be realistic and rational to see the truth.
Last, thank you for that. Interesting observations. Of course, that tension between Action SA and the DA, I don't think it needs any more commentary, right? I think it's quite plain for everyone to see what's at play there. As far as consultation, I do recall some of the parties saying that the finance minister, I think Songezo Zibi made that point, that the finance minister was available for consultation, but also availed the National Treasury team. But the other point you're making, it's quite interesting to observe those dynamics between those parties. Matthew, good morning in Cape Town, also on the issue of VAT.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. Good morning to the listeners. Yes, I've been listening to the DA press conference where Helen Zeller said it quite perfectly. Given the fact that I have no association with any political party, but what she said needs to be taken notice of. The fact that they've got the muscle in order to have, so that there can be a balance of power, that is it. Because I strongly believe there are other means and ways to cut costs. That the citizens cannot supplement the behavior and the decision making that government has done in order to bring us to the position that we are today. That there is a political party there that is willing to put the balance of power in place so that these decisions that are being passed through Parliament, that they can be appealed against, because I can tell you now, Thulasizwe, I strongly believe that the VAT increases by Malusi Gigaba should not have been increased to 15%. It should not have been. There are other means.
So the one from a few years ago should not even have happened, even at that point.
Yes, there were other means and ways that this should have happened. We should have still been at 14%. In actual fact, if the government were focused more on efficiency, I can say that there will even be a further decrease to 13% of the VAT.
Sure,
because yes, I strongly believe that. That there should be an efficiency process in place. First, make it efficient so you can run government in an efficient way before you spread the cost on your constituencies.
All right, I've got to move on. Thank you for making those points. That's Matthew in Cape Town. Let me go to Ntlantla in KZN. Good morning to you, Ntlantla. The Employment Equity Report on your mind this morning.
My brother, we can't speak about workers frauding their qualifications without speaking about companies frauding equity reports. Because my brother, as someone who has got chemical experience of 9 years with distinction to plus experience of being able to run a product which costs about 800,000 in 5 hours. Companies can't come to us and say we are frauding our qualifications while they are underpaying us with so much experience and qualifications.
Yeah. So you say the two go together.
That must also go together, because for far too long, companies have been underpaying us and also making us work under unhealthy conditions. Just like one guy was saying about the issue of Richards Bay. As a chemical worker and experience, I know some companies, they make us work under unhealthy conditions.
Yeah.
When you try to tell them to follow the rules, they will tell you go to hell, go to Department of Labor, CCMA. We'll pay those guys.
Yeah.
We'll throw the line.
All right, Nhlanhla, before you go, Nhlanhla, I've been saying that because you call in quite often and you seem to have a particular passion for our country's constitution, and I think I know now that Chapter 10 of the Constitution is your particular area of focus. Just for the rest of the community, tell us a bit more about yourself. Who is Nhlanhla and why are you so passionate about the Constitution?
My brother, I finished my matric in 2008. I started in a chemical company as a general worker. I got to study there. 2010, I started to be a shop steward as a writing notes. On my first meeting, I noticed that we don't know how to negotiate. So I went to the library to read the books of equity, labor relation, constitution, and everything. So I came back to negotiate. I found the fraud on the same company of employment equity reports. So I got to know that through the book, we can open so many doors.
Right. Nhlanhla, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, my brother.
No, thank you, my brother.
One who opens the book, closes a lot of prisons,
The one who opens the book closes a lot of prisons.
Yes, it is.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nhlanhla. Thank you for calling in. I really enjoy your engagements, and you bring particular perspectives whenever we're having all of these conversations. So there you have it. That's Nhlanhla in KZN there.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A tough morning through Durban with the torrential rains earlier, which led to some flooding, and we are still looking at some new flooding that's emerging as we go. The N2 north at Sabaya is now underwater, so if you're heading to the airport, there's a really big delay from as far back as Gateway. Chris Harley through Durban north, that should be avoided. That is submerged this morning, sort of where Queen Nandi comes into it, around that sort of junction there. Flooding on the M4 Umhlanga through the Blue Lagoon, flooding on the M19, Umgeta Road under the N2 at Springfield, so it's all quite slow there. Traffic volumes are easing. We're off the really big delays, but it's a pretty treacherous morning with widespread flooding around the greater Durban area, particularly Durban through to Umhlanga. Also a crash coming up the M2 after Joyner Road, so if you're driving in from Manzimtoti, that is still slow. Just a reminder about the pothole repair work underway this morning on the M1 in Pretoria at Rigel, with Friday volumes building ahead of the weekend. That's quite a big delay coming through from from Buerta Avenue. And Cape Town's been an easy Friday. There's a lot of congestion around some roadworks around the Lansdowne, Wetton sort of area. A lot of congestion in that part of town. And trying to avoid Four-Tracker Road this morning. Kensington through to Maitland is going to hold you up quite badly. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Switch to stream with SABC Plus. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime.
0 subscription fees. Download SABC Plus on Android or iOS and watch the Betway Premier Soccer League, the English Premier League, and the Bundesliga live. You can also catch up with Uzalo, Skim Sam, Generations on demand and listen to your favorite radio stations live. Ukhozi, Umhlobo Wenene, Radio 2000 and 5FM, all for free. Switch to stream with SABC Plus now. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime with SABC Plus.
Road crashes cause injuries and death. Take your safety seriously and the safety of others. Fatigue is a silent killer. If you're on the long road, take a break every 2 hours or every 200 kilometers. Remember, buckle up and stay within the speed limit. Don't overtake on a barrier line. Travel during the day, it's safer. Road safety is everyone's responsibility. Ensure that you and your loved ones arrive alive. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Fadlu Davis is back home to finish what he started in East Africa. But Steve Barker and his boys believe they can find an equalizer in their own backyard. Stellies collides with Wekundu Wamsimbazi. This is the second leg semi-final battle of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Catch the spectacular contest of African football. Stellenbosch FC versus Simba Sports Club. This Sunday, 27 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC One, and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a Health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Yeah, let's round off today's show with something uplifting and inspirational, and perhaps that will challenge you to get involved. In a world where children face immense challenges, be it illness, adversity, or circumstances beyond their control, Reach for a Dream exists to give them something profoundly powerful. That is hope, joy, and the freedom to dream. So we're talking about them because for more than 35 years, the foundation has stood beside children with life-threatening illnesses, nurturing their emotional well-being and helping them believe in a brighter tomorrow. So let's speak to Julia Soterianakos, who is CEO of the Reach for a Dream. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So 35 years, right? Tell me about how you understand your mandate and the role that you fulfill in our society as far as children in unfortunate circumstances are concerned.
Thank you, Thulasizwe, to you and your listeners for having me on your show. Reach for Dream Foundation fulfills the dreams of children with a life-threatening illness between the ages of 3 and 18. And what we do is unique to South Africa. We go to children and we ask them what their dream is. These children are often in hospitals and really facing a very, very difficult time. In fact, one would even argue that they're facing their own mortality. And for us to approach these children and their families on this journey is quite an honor and a privilege. And we ask our children what is their biggest dream. And through the support of our donors, our doctors, our nurses, and the community, we then go on to fulfill their dream. We currently fulfill 6 dreams a day in South Africa.
6 dreams a day. Give me a sense of the kinds of dreams that we're talking about and what they reveal about the things that children care about.
Yes, I think that's a very good question. In some instances, the technology dreams consist of cell phones, laptops, PlayStations, Nintendos. Children are isolated for long periods of time in the hospital, and these items give them a sense of connectivity to the outside world. In some instances, a child could be undergoing treatment for months on end, and their parents are unfortunately in a situation where they have to leave the child in hospital and go back to work. So they don't have that constant contact with their parents and their loved ones. We also have dreamers who've never been to the sea before, dreamers who've never touched the sand on a sea, near the sea. We've got dreamers who want to be doctors and vets. They want to go to places, they want to meet people. So we have a variety of these incredible experiences that we fulfill every day.
Yeah. And how much support do you receive from ordinary South Africans? I imagine it can't be easy. It must take resources for you to do what you do.
Yes, and I think that's why our Slip a Day campaign is one of the most important campaigns that we run through the year, because it gives South Africans an opportunity to contribute 20 Rand. We ask them to go and purchase a 20 Rand sticker at one of our retail partners, that's Wimpy, Dis-Chem Pharmacies, Dis-Chem Baby City, Pick n Pay, Toys R Us, Babies R Us, Krispy Kremes, and the Crazy Store. And when you purchase that 20 Rand sticker, you actually are supporting the work that we do. So ordinary South Africans don't need to give much. But if we've got everyone mobilized, then it does turn out to be a lot.
I tell you what, Julia, as a parting shot, you've got a dream. We share your dream. We are all dreamers. If it ever happens in the work that you do, that there's a young person who would like to come to studio and do a broadcast, we are ever available to help you fulfill that dream. Thank you for joining us this morning. That's Julia Soteria Nakos, who is CEO of the Reach for a Dream Foundation. And that's it, really. That's our full and final account for you by way of your morning brief for this Friday. But don't go anywhere. More quality news, current affairs and talk programming coming up throughout the rest of the day here on SAFM, starting up immediately after the news with Kathy Motlatlana and The Talking Point.
In our top stories, Santaco defends COVID-19 relief fund payments and Northwest Health embarks on a vaccination drive. Good morning. The South African National Taxi Council, Santaco, has defended government's decision to allocate 408 million rand from the COVID-19 relief fund to the taxi industry. This after Build 1 South Africa questioned the once-off gratuity, which was allocated in the 2025-2026 budget. Responding to a parliamentary question by Musi Maimane, the Transport Minister Barbara Creecy said Cabinet had approved an ex gratia payment to assist taxi operators affected by the COVID-19 restrictions in 2021. However, not all the beneficiaries have been able to access the funds.